If you're enjoying this video, smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell. Share it with your friends and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Every like and subscribe helps the channel grow. My name is Frank Sullivan, and I'm about to tell you about the night that changed everything, the night I faced something that shouldn't exist in the White Mountains of New Hampshire. It was April 17th, 1974, and the rain was coming down so hard I could barely see through my windshield. I was driving my old government Jeep through those muddy logging roads, the wipers squeaking back and forth, barely keeping up with the downpour. The radio kept cutting in and out with static, but I caught enough to know it was bad. Flash flood warnings all over, and worse, 3 Boy Scouts were missing somewhere near Franconia Notch. The cold was different that night. It wasn't just regular. April cold. It cut right through my wool ranger uniform and settled in my bones. Fog was rolling down from Mount Washington like a thick white blanket, and I couldn't see more than a few yards ahead. That's when my headlights caught something strange in the mud. Tracks, but not like any tracks I'd seen before. 3 toes, spread wide, pressed deep into the soft earth. In my 20 years as a ranger, I'd seen bear prints, moose prints, even mountain lion tracks, but these were different. The Pemigewasset River was roaring beside the road, angry with all that melted snow. You could hear it even over the rain, carrying branches and debris from the winter storms. This whole area was dotted with old mine shafts from the 1800s, and I knew they'd be flooding fast, dangerous fast. Then my CB radio crackled to life, and through all that static, I heard something that made my blood run cold. Eyes, glowing eyes in the mine. I reached for the volume knob, trying to get a clearer signal, but it was gone. Just static again. The temperature in my Jeep seemed to drop another 10 degrees, and I found myself shivering despite the heater running full blast. See, here's the thing about this part of the White Mountains. There's a river called the Lost River that actually disappears underground, creates this whole network of caves that nobody's ever fully explored. And right now, with all this rain, those caves would be death traps. I gripped the steering wheel tighter, my hands shaking a little. Not from the cold, though. 6 months sober, and my body still remembered what it was missing. The bottle used to steady these hands, used to make the long nights easier, but that was before I lost everything. The rain kept hammering down as I drove deeper into the forest. Those 3 missing scouts were somebody's kids. Somebody's whole world, and I knew, God, how I knew, what it felt like to lose your child. Even if mine was still alive somewhere, she was lost to me all the same. I never want to see you again. Sarah's last words to me 3 years ago, after her mother's funeral. The funeral I showed up drunk to. The accident I caused because I was too wasted to drive my wife home that night, so she drove herself. I touched the 90-day sobriety chip in my breast pocket, right next to my ranger badge. 90 days. It wasn't much, but it was something. The Forest Service had given me one last chance after my 3rd DUI. Get your act together, Frank, they'd said. This is it. My cabin back in town was as empty as I felt most days. Just some wildlife photos on the walls and a few motivational quotes about staying sober. No family pictures anymore. Couldn't bear to look at them. But tonight wasn't about me or my demons. Tonight was about finding those boys. The rain was getting worse, and somewhere out there, 3 kids were counting on someone to find them. Their parents were probably sick with worry, making phone calls, praying for news, any news. I couldn't save my own family, couldn't save my marriage or keep my daughter's love. But maybe, just maybe, I could save someone else's children. Maybe this was my chance to do something right for once. The Jeep's headlights swept across the dark trees as I turned onto an even rougher trail. The storm was getting worse, and that strange cold was seeping deeper into my bones. Something felt wrong about this night, wrong about those tracks I'd seen. But I pushed forward anyway, because out there in the darkness and rain, 3 boys needed help. and I was the only one close enough to give it to them. Little did I know that what I was driving toward that night wasn't just a rescue mission. It was something far stranger, far more terrifying than anything I'd encountered in all my years in these mountains. Something that would test not just my skills as a ranger, but my sanity itself. The windshield wipers continued their losing battle against the rain as I drove deeper into the night, toward whatever was waiting for me in those flooded mines. The Jeep finally gave up on me about a mile from where the boys were last seen camping. The engine sputtered, coughed, and died right there in the mud. I sat there for a minute, rain hammering on the roof, trying to decide what to do. Then I grabbed my flashlight, backpack, and radio. If I was going to find those boys, it would be on foot. The forest felt different in the dark. Every sound seemed louder, the rain hitting leaves, branches creaking overhead, small animals running for shelter. My boots sank deep in the mud with each step. Within minutes, I was soaked to the bone. I kept thinking about those tracks I'd seen. 3 toes. What has 3 toes? Nothing in these woods, that's for sure. Bears have 5. Moose have hooves. Even birds that size would leave different prints. Then my flashlight caught something, a piece of red fabric hanging from a branch. I moved closer. It was a Boy Scout neckerchief, torn and muddy. Good kids, leaving a trail. My Sarah used to do the same thing when we'd go hiking. "Always leave signs, Dad," she'd say, "just in case." I followed the trail deeper into the woods, more neckerchiefs tied to branches, pointing the way. The rain was finally starting to ease up, but that fog from the mountain was getting thicker. Sometimes I could barely see 10 feet ahead. That's when I found their campsite. The tent was destroyed, not knocked down or blown over, destroyed. Long tears through the waterproof fabric, like someone had taken razor blades to it, or claws. Everything was scattered, sleeping bags, backpacks, food containers. But no blood. Thank God, no blood. I knelt down to examine the ground, more of those 3-toed prints all around the campsite, and they were wrong. The spacing between the toes, the depth of the impressions, whatever made these walked upright, like a person, but no person has feet like that. Something else caught my eye. One of their flashlights still working, lying in the mud. Then another, and another. All 3 flashlights were arranged in a line, pointing toward the old Jameson mine entrance about 50 yards away. My grandfather used to work in that mine. Before it shut down in 1910, cave-ins killed 6 men that year. Nobody had been inside for decades, except for the occasional stupid teenager looking for trouble. And now, maybe, 3 Boy Scouts. I walked toward the mine entrance, following those flashlight beams. The air got colder with each step. Not normal, cold. That strange, bone-deep chill I'd felt in the Jeep, and there was a smell now. Like rotten eggs. Sulfur. At the mine entrance, I found the boys' backpacks lined up neatly against the rock wall. Inside, one of them was a journal. 11-year-old Kevin Marsh, Troop 44. The poor kid had been drawing in it. The sketches started. Normal enough, trees, mountains, a deer, but the last few pages showed something else. A creature with huge oval eyes, no hair, thin arms with hands that had only 3 fingers. And in the final sketch, this thing was standing at the entrance to a cave, those enormous eyes seeming to stare right off the page. Below the drawing, in shaky handwriting, "It won't stop watching us." I heard a sound from deep in the mine, like a whistle, but higher than any human could make. High enough that it hurt my ears. I touched my nose and my hand came away bloody. Everything in me said to turn around. Go back to the access road, radio for help. Let someone else handle this. But I kept seeing Sarah's face, kept thinking about those 3 boys, scared and alone in the dark. Their parents waiting by phones that weren't ringing. I clicked on my flashlight and stepped into the mine. The beam of light seemed weaker in here, like the darkness was thick enough to fight back. Water dripped from the ceiling. The flood waters were starting to seep through from above. This whole place could come down any minute. About 30 feet in, I found more drawings. Not in a journal this time, scratched right into the cave walls. Symbols I didn't recognize. Stars and circles and shapes that hurt my eyes to look at. They seemed old, real old. But some of the scratches had fresh rock dust beneath them, like someone had just added to them. That whistling sound came again, echoing off the cave walls. Closer this time, my nose started bleeding worse, and I had to breathe through my mouth. The sulfur smell was getting stronger too. I kept going deeper, following a trail of candy bar wrappers and more neckerchief pieces. Smart kids. They were leaving me a path. The cave split into 3 tunnels, and they'd put an arrow made of stones. Pointing to the leftmost one, the temperature kept dropping. My breath came out in white clouds now, which made no sense. It was April, not January, and that chill. It was like it was coming from inside my bones instead of outside. Then I saw them. Footprints in the soft dirt. 2 sets, one human-sized, with hiking boots. The other, those 3-toed prints again, walking side by side, like whatever made those prints was leading someone deeper into the mine or hunting them. I quickened my pace, trying not to think about the tons of rock above my head or the water now actively running down the walls. The cave was flooding. We didn't have much time. Another whistle echoed through the tunnel, but this time it was different. This time there were words in it, not English, not any language I knew, but somehow I understood them anyway, like they were being pushed directly into my brain. Come deeper, Forest Guardian. Come see what the stars left behind. My hand went to my sobriety chip again, just for comfort. Something real to hold on to while everything else stopped making sense. 90 days sober, and now I was hearing voices in my head. Perfect. But I kept walking, because somewhere ahead in this darkness were 3 scared kids who needed help, and whatever was down here with us, whatever impossible thing was making those sounds and leaving those prints, I was going to find it. Was going to bring those boys home, even if I had to face something that shouldn't exist to do it. The tunnel opened up into a larger chamber, and my flashlight beams swept across the walls. More of those strange symbols, but now they seemed to pulse with a faint blue light. Water dripped steadily from the ceiling, forming puddles that reflected my light in weird ways. That's when I found the first real sign of the boys, a baseball cap, Yankees logo barely visible under the mud. Next to it, a candy wrapper and an empty water bottle. They'd stopped here, maybe to rest, but something had made them leave in a hurry. The water bottle was still half full, like someone had dropped it mid-drink. The whistling came again, closer. Now my nose started bleeding worse. I wiped it with my sleeve and kept moving. "Hello?" I called out, my voice echoing off the cave walls. "Kevin? Boys? This is Ranger Sullivan. Your parents sent me to find you." Silence. Then, from somewhere deep in the cave system, a voice. Young, scared. "Don't come down here. It's not safe." "Kevin? Is that you, son? Please go back. It doesn't want you here yet." Yet? What did that mean? I pushed forward anyway, following the sounds of dripping water and that strange whistling. The tunnel narrowed again, forcing me to duck my head. The walls here were smooth, like they'd been polished, or melted. That's when my flashlight caught, something that made me stop cold. Letters scratched into the rock. "It lives in the stars." Below that, fresher scratches. "It's watching us." And below that, in what looked like fingernail marks, "Don't let it touch your mind." I kept going. What choice did I have? The tunnel opened into another chamber, bigger than a house, and there, huddled in the corner, were the 3 boys, alive, scared out of their minds, but alive. "Boys!" I rushed toward them. "Thank God. Are you hurt?" They pressed themselves against the wall, eyes wide with terror, but they weren't looking at me. They were looking behind me. I turned around slowly, raising my flashlight. At first I thought my eyes were playing tricks. The beam seemed to bend around something in the darkness, like light avoiding a shape it didn't want to touch. Then the shape moved, and I saw it clearly. It was maybe 4 feet tall, with grayish-white skin that seemed to glow faintly. No hair anywhere on its body. Its head was too big for its thin neck, like a child had drawn it wrong, but the eyes... God, those eyes. Huge, oval, completely black. No whites, no pupils. Just endless black that seemed to pull at something inside my head. The creature tilted its head at me like a curious dog. Then it raised one hand, 3 long fingers, just like the tracks, and pointed at my chest. Not at me, at my sobriety. "Chip, it doesn't like the metal," one of the boys whispered behind me. "The nickel in our scout badges. It burns it." The creature's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Instead, that whistling filled my head again, and this time the words were clearer. "You carry poison in your pocket, Forest Guardian. The metal that fell from our enemy's world." I gripped my flashlight tighter. "I don't know what you are, but these boys are coming with me." It tilted its head the other way. Those huge eyes blinked slowly, vertically, like some kind of reptile. "These younglings have seen our home. They have touched the old machines. They know where we crashed." Crashed? Machines? What was this thing talking about? "I don't care about any of that," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'm taking these boys out of here." The creature's eyes suddenly flashed with a greenish light. The air in the chamber got colder, and I could see my breath coming in quick white puffs. My flashlight flickered. "You misunderstand, Forest Guardian. They have seen too much. They must stay, as must you." That's when I noticed the walls of the chamber. They were covered in more of those symbols, but now I could see they were arranged in patterns. Star patterns, constellations I didn't recognize. "This is our place of waiting," the creature said in my mind. "We have slept here since your kind still feared the dark, since your ancestors painted our images on their cave walls." Behind me, one of the boys whimpered, "Mr. Sullivan, please." I reached into my pocket and pulled out my sobriety chip, holding it up like a shield. The creature actually stepped back, making a sound like metal scraping on stone. "This burns." "You," I asked. "Your world's metals poison us. Why do you think we hide below?" I took a step forward. The creature took another step back. "Then maybe you should stay below," I said. "Come on, boys, we're leaving." But as the boys started to stand, the creature's eyes flashed again. This time the light was different, hypnotic. I felt my thoughts going fuzzy, like when I used to drink too much too fast. "No," the creature said, and now its voice was everywhere at once. "You will see, you will understand. Look upon what your kind has forgotten." The walls of the chamber began to glow. The symbols lit up one by one, creating a map of stars I'd never seen. And then, somehow, I was seeing more than just the cave. I was seeing a ship, broken, ancient, buried deep beneath the mountain. I was seeing corridors of impossible metal, control panels covered in alien script. I was seeing the crash thousands of years ago, the survivors crawling from the wreckage, finding the caves, going deeper, changing. "We wait," the creature said. "We wait for our brothers to return. But your kind, you dig, you explore, you come too close." The vision faded. I was back in the chamber, my head pounding. "Mr. Sullivan," one of the boys was shaking my arm. "Are you okay? You were just standing there." I shook my head to clear it. The creature had moved closer while I was wherever I was. Its huge eyes were just a few feet from my face now. "The younglings can leave," it said, "but you have seen our truth. You must stay." "Like hell I will." I grabbed my chip tighter. The metal was actually warm now, almost hot. "Then we will make you forget, as we have made others forget." Others? I thought about all the missing persons cases in these mountains, all the hikers who came back with no memory of where they'd been. How many others? The creature didn't answer. Instead, it started making that whistling sound again. But this time, it was different. Higher, more painful. The boys covered their ears, crying out. My nose started bleeding again, worse than before. Blood dripped onto my ranger uniform. "Stop it!" I shouted. "Forget!" the creature commanded. "Forget what you have seen. Forget we exist." The sound got louder. My vision started to blur. I could feel memories trying to slip away like water through. My fingers, the crash, the ship, even the creature itself. It was all starting to fade. But then I thought about Sarah, about how I'd already lost so much to forgetting to be a good father, forgetting to be a good husband, forgetting everything except the bottle. Wasn't going to forget again. I pressed my sobriety chip against my forehead, right between my eyes. The metal burned, but it cleared my head. "No," I said, "I'm done forgetting." And I lunged forward, pressing the chip against the creature's pale skin. The scream that filled the chamber wasn't human. It was like metal tearing, like 1,000 fingernails on chalkboards. The creature stumbled backward. A perfect circle burned into its forehead. "Run!" I shouted to the boys. "Get out of here!" They didn't need to be told twice. They scrambled past me, heading for the tunnel we'd come through. I backed away from the creature, keeping my chip held out in front of me. "You cannot escape what comes," it said, its mental voice weaker now. "Our brothers return soon. Your world will remember us." I turned and ran after the boys. Behind me, I could hear the creature making that whistling sound again, but it was different now. Sad, almost. Like a lonely signal being broadcast into empty space. We raced through the tunnels, water now ankle-deep and rising fast. The cave system was flooding. We had to get out, and quick. But I knew, even as we ran, that this wasn't over. Whatever was, down here, whatever was buried under this mountain, it was just the beginning of something bigger. Something was coming. And now I knew about it. The question was, what was I going to do with that knowledge? The water was rising fast. It splashed around our ankles as we ran through the tunnels, and I could hear more pouring in from somewhere above. The flashlight beam bounced crazily off the wet walls. "Keep moving!" I shouted to the boys. "Stay together!" Kevin was in front, then Tommy and Michael. Good kids, not panicking, doing exactly what I told them, but I could hear their breathing getting ragged. We were all tired, and the water made every step harder. Behind us, that whistling sound echoed through the caves. But now there was more than one voice, like the first creature was calling to others. "Mr. Sullivan," Michael panted, "are there more of those things? Don't think about it, just run." We reached a fork in the tunnel. Water poured from both directions now, knee-deep and cold as ice. Which way had we come? Everything looked different with the flooding. "The arrow!" Tommy pointed. "We made an arrow with rocks." But the rocks were underwater now. I shined my light. Down, trying to see through the muddy current. There, just barely visible, the point of the arrow showing us the way back. "Good eyes, Tommy. This way." We splashed through the left tunnel. The water was getting deeper, up to the boys' waists. Now, they were smaller, having a harder time pushing through. I moved to the back of the group, ready to help if anyone slipped. That's when I felt it, a hand on my ankle. 3 fingers, impossibly strong. I went down hard, water closing over my head. The flashlight tumbled from my grip, its beam spinning, crazily underwater. I kicked out, felt my boot connect with something solid. The grip loosened. I pushed up, gasping for air. "Mr. Sullivan!" Kevin had turned back, reaching for me. "Keep going!" I spat out water. "Don't stop!" I fumbled for my flashlight, found it still working. Thank God for waterproofing. Behind me, I could see pale shapes moving through the murky water. More of them. We pushed forward. The tunnel started sloping upward. Good sign. The water got shallower as we climbed. My legs burned, but I kept the boys moving. "There!" Tommy pointed. "I see light. The mine entrance. Grey daylight filtered in. The most beautiful thing I'd ever seen." We half ran, half stumbled toward it. That's when the ceiling started to crack. "Cave in!" I yelled. "Run! Run!" Rocks and dirt rained down. The old support beams groaned and splintered. The whole mountain seemed to be shifting. I grabbed Michael, who was falling behind, and practically threw him toward the entrance. Tommy next, then Kevin. A massive crack split the air. A support beam gave way right above me. Time seemed to slow down. I could see the boys at the entrance turning back, could see the tons of rock starting to fall, could see in the darkness. Behind me, those huge black eyes watching. I had a choice. Try to make it out and risk the boys coming back in after me, or make sure they got away safe. It wasn't really a choice at all. I turned and charged back into the darkness, toward those watching eyes. The creatures scattered, that whistling sound turning to shrieks. Behind me, I heard the boys screaming my name. "Get them out of here!" I yelled to someone, anyone. "Tell their parents! Tell them!" The world exploded, rock and dirt and water all crashing down. Pain flared across my back, my legs. Then darkness, but in that darkness, I wasn't alone. The creature was there, trapped like me under the rubble. Those huge eyes, no longer alien and threatening, just afraid. Why? Its voice whispered in my mind. Why save them and not yourself? I thought about Sarah, about my wife, about all the people I'd failed to save. Because they're somebody's. Children, I said, tasting blood. They deserve to go home. The creature was quiet for a long moment. Then I had younglings once, before the crash, before the long sleep. Yeah. The pain was getting worse. Breathing was hard. What happened to them? Lost. In the void between stars. That is why we search. Why we call. I closed my eyes. 90 days sober, and I'm having a conversation with an alien. AA's gonna love this story. Something like laughter echoed in my mind. Then the creature did something strange. It reached out with one three-fingered hand and touched my forehead. Not attacking, just touching. Images flooded my mind. Its home world, blue and beautiful. The crash, the centuries of hiding, the loneliness, the fear of being discovered, the hope that someday their kind would return. We never meant harm, it said. We only wanted to forget and to be forgotten. My sobriety chip had fallen out of my pocket in the cave-in. The creature picked it up, studying it. 90 days. It said, reading the words somehow. Is this important? Yeah, I coughed. It means I was getting better. Starting over. The creature pressed the chip back into my hand. Its skin didn't burn this time. Then remember this, Forest Guardian. You saved 3 younglings today. You chose others over yourself. That is how. Do you say day 91? The pain was fading now. Everything was fading. The boys, I whispered, safe. They will not remember clearly. It is better this way. But they will remember you. Darkness crept in at the edges of my vision. The last thing I saw were those huge black eyes, not scary anymore, just sad, and maybe a little grateful. Sleep now, Forest Guardian. You have earned your peace. The search teams found the boys 3 hours later, huddled under an emergency blanket by the access road. They talked about a ranger who saved them, about strange things in the mines. But their memories were fuzzy, like dreams half remembered. They never found my body. The mine entrance had completely collapsed, sealed forever by the mountain itself. The official report said I died a hero, saving 3 scouts from a flash flood. But sometimes hikers in the White Mountains report strange things. A figure in a ranger uniform, standing near the old mine entrances, warning people away, keeping them safe. And if you look closely, they say, you can see him holding something small and shiny in his hand, a 90-day sobriety chip gleaming in the moonlight. The boys grew up, became men, had children of their own, and every April 17th they return to the White Mountains. They leave flowers at a small memorial the Forest Service built, and they tell their children about the ranger who saved them. They don't mention the creatures, or the strange ship buried under the mountain, or the eyes in the darkness. Some things are better left buried, but late at night when the wind blows cold through the pines, they remember. And they wonder if somewhere, deep beneath the earth, something still waits, still watches, still calls to the stars, and they keep their children close, and they stay away from the old mines. Because Ranger Frank Sullivan is still on duty, still protecting the forest, still keeping the secrets of White Mountain, still earning his day 91. My name is Walter Hendricks, and I've been a forest ranger in Superior National Forest for 3 years now. That February morning in 1957, I remember it like it was yesterday. The kind of cold that makes your bones hurt, you know? 30 below, 0, and getting colder. I started my patrol just as the sun was coming up, painting the snow pink and orange. Beautiful, really. But something felt wrong right away. The forest was too quiet. Usually you'd hear chickadees chirping, maybe a woodpecker hammering away at some dead tree. That morning, nothing. Just the wind whistling through the frozen pines. My snowshoes crunched through the fresh powder from last night's blizzard. Every breath I took turned into a little cloud in front of my face. I checked my Winchester rifle, made sure it was loaded and ready. Then I looked at my compass, the one my dad gave me before he shipped out to World War II. "Find your way home" was engraved on the back. He never made it home himself. That's when I saw the tracks. At first, I thought they were human footprints, but they were wrong somehow. Too long, too stretched out, and between each print I could see marks in the snow, like claws. My stomach dropped. 7 campers had already gone missing this winter, the coldest winter anyone could remember. The radio on my belt crackled with static. The nearest ranger station was 15 miles away, and another storm was coming. Those grey clouds overhead weren't messing around. A raven landed on a branch above me. It tilted its black head, stared at me with one beady eye, then flew off deeper into the forest, like it was trying to tell me something. The tracks led the same way, toward Disappointment Lake. That's where the last group of campers disappeared. Just 2 weeks ago, I should tell you a bit about myself. I'm 42 years old, and I've seen things most people only have nightmares about. I fought in Korea, came back with scars on my shoulder, and worse ones in my head. Still wake up screaming sometimes, thinking I'm back in that frozen hell. That's why I became a ranger. Thought the quiet of the forest would help. Thought maybe I could find some peace out here. My wife couldn't handle my night terrors or my drinking. She left 3 years ago, took our daughter with her. Haven't touched a drop in 18 months, though. Out here, I fight my demons with solitude and silence. People in town call me Wolf Hendricks because I can track anything, in any weather. It's true, I found lost hikers in blizzards, rescued injured hunters miles from any trail. My field journal is full of notes about the forest, sketches of animals, records of strange things I've seen. But nothing like those tracks. I keep a photo of my daughter in my breast pocket, right over my heart. And these scarred hands of mine, they still shake sometimes when I remember the cabin fire that killed my little brother when we were kids. I couldn't save him. The guilt never goes away. Maybe that's why I always try to save everyone else. Every lost hiker, every wounded animal. Maybe I'm still trying to make up for that one failure. As I followed those strange tracks deeper into the forest, the temperature kept dropping. My breath came out in bigger clouds. The trees seemed to lean in closer, their branches heavy with ice and snow. Something was very wrong in Superior National Forest that morning. And those tracks were leading me right to it. The tracks changed about a mile in. They got deeper, messier, like whoever or whatever made them started running. Then I saw the blood, just drops at first, bright red against the white snow. Then, more. I found the backpack in a small clearing. It was torn to shreds, like something with claws had ripped it apart. Clothes, food, camping gear, all scattered everywhere. My heart was pounding now, but I kept my breathing steady. Had to stay. Calm. That's when I spotted the journal. It was lying open in the snow, pages flapping in the wind. I picked it up, brushed off the ice. The last entry made my blood run cold. So hungry. They were so hungry. Why did they eat? The handwriting got shaky toward the end, like the person was losing their mind. I looked around the clearing more, carefully. The trees, something was wrong with them. Deep scratches in the bark, but way too high up. 12 feet, maybe more. No bear could reach that high. No person either. Then the smell hit me. You know how dead things smell? This was worse. Like rotting meat mixed with rotten eggs. It made my eyes water, even in that freezing air. I pulled out my compass to check my direction. The needle started spinning, round and round, like it couldn't. Fine north. I'd never seen it do that before. Technology doesn't just stop working for no reason. Following the tracks, I came to the campsite about 20 minutes later. 4 tents, all torn apart. But here's the thing. They were torn from the inside out. Like whatever was in those tents wanted to get out fast. My hands were shaking now, and not from the cold. In the middle of the camp, I found bones. Human bones. They were cracked open like something had been eating the marrow inside, and they were arranged in a circle. A perfect circle. I grabbed my radio, tried to call the station. Static, mostly. But underneath it, I heard something else. Whispers. Couldn't make out the words at first, then I heard it. Hungry. Join us. I dropped. The radio. My mind was playing tricks on me. Had to be. The storm clouds were getting darker, moving in fast. The temperature dropped another 10 degrees in just a few minutes. My thermometer showed 40 below now, the kind of cold that kills you if you're not careful. I should have turned back, should have radioed for help, waited for backup. But those whispers, they sounded familiar. Like voices I knew. The wind picked up, howling through the trees. Snow started falling again. Heavy flakes that made it hard to see, but I could still follow those tracks. They were leading me deeper into the forest, toward Disappointment Lake. I checked my rifle again. 6 bullets. Would that be enough? Enough. For what? I didn't even know what I was tracking anymore. The bones in that circle, the way they were arranged. It wasn't random. Someone, or something, had put them there on purpose. Like some kind of ritual. My father's compass was still spinning wildly in my hand. The whispers on the radio were getting louder, and those tracks in the snow, they were getting fresher. Whatever made them was close now, very close. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. You know that feeling when you're being watched, when you're not alone anymore? That's what I felt, standing there in that darkening forest, 40 below zero, miles from help. Something was out there in the snow, something hungry, and it knew I was coming. I saw it between the trees. At first, I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. It was so tall, maybe 9 feet, and thin like a skeleton. Its skin was grey-white like a dead person's. But the worst part? The antlers. Real antlers growing right out of its skull. When it moved, I heard its bones cracking and popping like ice breaking on a frozen lake. The sound made my teeth hurt. It turned to look at me, and I wish it hadn't. Its eyes were just holes, black holes that seemed to suck in all the light around them. When it opened its mouth, I saw rows of human teeth, but they were filed down to sharp points. Then it spoke, and I nearly dropped my rifle. "Walter, I'm so cold, so hungry. Help me." It was my brother's voice. My little brother Tommy, who died in that fire when we were kids. But that was impossible. Tommy's been dead for 30 years. The thing, I couldn't call it human anymore, took a step toward me. Where its foot touched the snow, the white turned black, like the ground itself was dying. Its breath came out in clouds of ice crystals that hung in the air. My head started pounding. Images flashed through my mind. Tommy screaming in the fire, my wife packing her bags, those missing campers. Eating each other. The creature was putting these pictures in my head somehow. My stomach cramped up bad. Not normal hunger. This was different. Like I hadn't eaten in weeks. Like I was starving. My mouth watered looking at... No. I pushed that. Thought away hard. The Wendigo, that's what the Native Americans called it, started circling me. It moved fast, too fast for something that big, always staying just out of range of my rifle. It knew about guns. It was smart. "Come closer, Walter," it said in my daughter's voice now. "Don't you miss me, Daddy?" My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold the Winchester. The hunger in my gut was getting worse. I could smell meat cooking, even though there was nothing but snow and trees around us. "You're alone, Walter," it whispered, using my wife's voice. "You'll always be alone, unless you join us. We're never alone, never hungry." The wind died down completely. The snow stopped falling. Everything went silent, except for the sound of the creature's joints popping as it moved. Pop, crack, pop. It was playing with me, like a cat with a mouse. I backing up slowly, trying to keep trees between us. My boots crunched in the snow, the only sound besides that horrible popping of its joints. The creature's black eyes followed my every move. "You couldn't save Tommy," it said in my father's voice. "You couldn't save anyone, but you can save yourself. Just give in, the hunger will end." My back hit a tree, nowhere left to go. The Wendigo smiled with those pointed teeth. Black liquid dripped from its mouth onto the snow, sizzling where it landed. "So hungry, Walter. Aren't you hungry too?" My finger tightened on the trigger. 6 bullets. Would they even work on this thing? The creature took another step closer. I could smell its breath now, like rotting meat and old blood. My stomach twisted, but not from disgust, from hunger, terrible, unnatural hunger. It reached out one long grey hand. Its fingers ended in black claws, curved like fish hooks. "Join us, Walter. Join us and never be hungry again." The black eyes seemed to grow larger, pulling me in. The hunger in my belly was screaming now, my mouth filled with saliva. The rifle felt heavy in my hands. Somewhere in the distance a raven cawed. The Wendigo's smile grew wider. The creature lunged at me. I dove sideways just as those claws raked across my shoulder. The pain was like nothing I'd ever felt. Burning, cold, like frostbite and fire at the same time. Blood soaked through my jacket. I raised my rifle and fired. The bullet hit the Wendigo square in the chest. It barely slowed down. "Bullets won't save you, Walter." It laughed with multiple voices, all its victims speaking at once. I fired again, and again. The creature kept coming. I ran toward the frozen creek bed, my boots slipping on ice. Had to think fast, reached into my pocket and pulled out my emergency flare, struck it against my boot and threw it between us. The flare burst into bright red fire on the snow. The Wendigo screeched and jumped back. It was afraid of fire. "You can't run forever," it hissed, but it wouldn't cross that flame. Then the creature did something worse than attacking. It got inside my head again. Waves of hunger hit me like punches to the gut. I fell to my knees, gasping. My stomach felt like it was eating itself. Images flooded my mind. I saw the truth about this thing. It used to be human, a forest ranger like me, back in 1881. Got lost in a blizzard. His group ran out of food. They were so hungry, so desperate. He was the first to take a bite of human flesh. After that, he couldn't stop. The Wendigo curse took him, turned him into this monster. "Join us, Walter," it whispered from across the flames. "You're already so close. I can feel your hunger." My vision blurred. For a second, I swear I could smell cooking meat. My mouth watered. Then the creature started speaking in my daughter's voice again. "Daddy, why did you leave me? Why didn't you save me like you save everyone else?" That broke something in me. I grabbed my father's compass from my pocket. The silver backing caught the light from the flare. "My daughter is alive!" I shouted and threw the compass as hard as I could. It hit the Wendigo right in the face. The creature screamed, not like a human, but like 100 people being tortured at once. Where the silver touched its grey skin, it burned and smoked. I had one flare left. While the creature was clutching its face, I lit it and threw it right at those antlers on its head. The antlers caught fire instantly. The flames spread down to its skull, then its shoulders. The Wendigo howled and thrashed, but the fire was hungry too, as hungry as the creature itself. As it burned, I heard voices in the wind, not scary anymore, but sad, grateful, like souls being set free. The wind picked up, almost knocking me down. I ran until my lungs burned and my legs gave out. The last thing I remember was collapsing in the snow, drawing something in the white powder over and over with my frozen fingers. 3 days later, another ranger found me, half dead from the cold, frostbite on my fingers and toes. But alive. They found burn marks in the forest where the Wendigo died, and all those missing. Camper's remains finally at rest. But here's the thing, when they helped me take my shirt off at the hospital, we all saw it. Burned into my chest like a brand, the same symbol I'd been drawing in the snow, the mark of the Wendigo. The doctors said it was some kind of severe frostbite pattern. But I know better. That thing marked me before it died. And now, every winter, when the temperature drops and the snow gets deep, I feel it. That hunger, that terrible, unnatural hunger. The Wendigo is dead, but its curse is still alive. And it's inside me now, waiting for the next winter when the cold gets bad enough. When someone gets lost in the forest, when the hunger becomes too strong to resist. They say the Wendigo always comes back. It just needs a new host. So if you're ever in Superior National Forest in the deep winter, and you see tracks that look almost human, but not quite, with claw marks between each print, don't follow them. And if you hear someone calling your name, in a voice you recognize someone who should be dead, run, and don't look back. The hospital in Duluth kept me for 2 weeks. Frostbite treatment, they said, but the real treatment was for my mind. I kept drawing that symbol, circles within circles, like antlers viewed from above. The doctors thought I was crazy. Maybe I was. The other rangers came to visit. They wanted to know what happened out there. I told them about the bear attack. That's what's in the official report. A rogue grizzly, unusual for Minnesota, but it happens. Attacked the campers. I scared it off with flares. Nobody talks about why bear tracks don't look like human footprints with claws, or why the bones were arranged in that perfect circle, or why all the victims were missing their hearts. The mark on my chest never faded. Looks like a scar from burns, but it's cold to the touch. Always cold. I quit the Forest Service that spring, moved south to Missouri, thinking distance would help. Got a job as a small-town sheriff's deputy, safe, normal. No more forests, no more winter patrols, but every winter since then, when the first real cold snap hits, the hunger comes back. It starts small. Food doesn't satisfy me like it should. Meat tastes wrong, like it's not what I really want. I catch myself staring at people in the grocery store, wondering what they'd know. I lock myself in my cabin when those thoughts come. Stock up on supplies. Wait for spring. The local news still reports on Superior National Forest sometimes. More disappearances during bad winters. They blame the cold, say people get lost in blizzards. But I know better. The Wendigo can't die, not really. It just finds a new host. Last week I got a letter from the Forest Service. They're investigating some unusual deaths from the winter of 1957. Want to interview me again? The letter mentioned they found my father's compass at the site where the Wendigo burned, the compass that should have burned with the creature. The letter said something else too, something that made my blood run cold. The compass was found in fresh snow, like someone dropped it recently, but the strangest thing, it was found exactly where you reported your encounter. And sir, we know you've been in Missouri all these years, but we have reports of someone matching your description being seen in Superior National Forest last winter, during those new disappearances. I put the letter down and looked at my hands. The scars from that childhood fire seemed darker than usual. Then I noticed my calendar. It's been exactly 68 years since that winter of 1957. And you know what? This winter is supposed to be the coldest Minnesota has seen since then. The hunger is already starting. I can feel it. Maybe it's time I went back to Superior National Forest. Back to where it all started. After all, the Wendigo always returns, and it's still hungry. My name is Lisa Kowalski, and I need to tell you about what happened on Halloween night in 1982. What I saw in Manistee Forest that night. Well, most people wouldn't believe it, but I swear on my badge, every word is true. It was October 31st, and I was out on patrol like any other night. The full moon hung low in the sky, glowing red through the maple trees. That's never a good sign, my grandma used to say. She was a Ojibwe, knew all about the old stories, the things that lived in these woods long before we put up our fancy ranger stations. The air felt different that night. Cold, sure, but there was something else. That smell you get right before a storm, except the weatherman had promised clear skies. Dry leaves crunched under my Jeep's tires as I drove the back roads, checking on camping sites. Most folks had gone home for Halloween, taking their kids trick-or-treating in town, but hunting season was in full swing, and we still had plenty of men out here with rifles looking for deer. Then my radio crackled. "Motor City, this is Base. Got a weird one for you." That was Sally back at headquarters. She always called me by my CB handle, Motor City, a leftover from my cop days in Detroit. I grabbed the radio. "Go ahead, Base. Jim and Pete found something. By Big Bear Lake, dead deer, but, well, they say it's not right, not like any animal kill they've seen." I sighed. Probably just a bear. City boys like Jim and Pete were always getting spooked by normal forest stuff. "Copy that. I'll swing by and take a look." "There's more," Sally said. Her voice had that edge to it, the one she got when something was really wrong. "They're saying it looks ritualistic, like something tore it apart for fun, not food." The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. In all my years as a cop, I'd seen what humans could do to each other. But there was something about Sally's tone that made my skin crawl. "On my way," I said. As I drove toward Big Bear Lake, the fog started rolling in from Lake Michigan. It came fast, like ghostly fingers reaching through the trees, muffling every sound. My headlights barely cut through it. That's when the radio started acting up, spitting static. And through that static, I could swear I heard something else. Howling, not like any wolf I'd ever heard. This sound was wrong. It started low like a big dog, then rose higher and higher until it almost sounded like a man screaming. Then it cut off, sharp as a knife. I pulled over and sat there in my Jeep, engine idling, listening. The fog pressed against my windows. Even with the heater on, I felt cold. That's when my headlights caught something in the trees. Eye shine. But it was too high up. Whatever was watching me from the forest had to be at least 7 feet off the ground. Probably just an owl, I told myself. But owls don't usually make the hair on your arms stand up like that. I put the Jeep back in gear and kept driving toward Big Bear Lake, but slower now, more careful. My right hand rested on my service weapon, a .44 Magnum I'd carried since Detroit. You develop instincts as a cop, and right then, every instinct I had was screaming danger. The old stories my grandma used to tell came flooding back. Stories about things that walked these woods before the Europeans came. Not bears or wolves, but something in between. Something that walked on 2 legs when it wanted to. The dogman, they called it. Showed up every 10 years like clockwork, or so the legend went. First sighted in 1887, then 1897, 1907. I did the math in my head and felt my stomach drop. 1982, right on schedule. But those were just stories, I told myself. Campfire tales to scare tourists. I was a trained officer, a forest ranger. I dealt in facts, not legends. Then I arrived at Big Bear Lake and I saw the deer, what was left of it anyway, and I realized that sometimes the legends are true. I should tell you a bit about myself before I go on. See, I wasn't always a forest ranger hiding out in the Michigan woods. 5 years ago, I was Detective Lisa Kowalski, working homicide in Detroit. Tough job, but I was good at it. Real good. Then everything went sideways. We were busting a drug house on the east side. I was lead detective, my partner Ray right behind me. We'd done this dance 100 times before, but that night someone tipped them off. Ray took 3 bullets meant for me. Died in my arms while I tried to stop the bleeding with my bare hands. The department cleared me, said it wasn't my fault. But when you're the one who planned the raid, when you're the one who lived while your partner died, well, guilt doesn't care about official reports. So I ran. Traded my detective shield for a ranger badge. Concrete for trees, sirens for bird. Songs. Figured the forest would be peaceful, safe. Funny how wrong you can be. My cabin sat 5 miles from the nearest road, just me and Thor, my German shepherd. He'd been a police dog before his retirement, still had the best nose in the business. That dog was the only family I had left. My parents died when I was young, raised by my grandma until she passed too. She taught me the old ways, the Ojibwe songs and stories, taught me to respect the forest, said it had its own rules. Some things out there older than people, Lisa, she'd say while braiding my hair. They were here first, we're just visitors. I kept her silver inlaid hunting knife on my belt, right next to my gun. The silver was for protection, she said. From what, she never explained. I was good at my job. My file said exceptional marksmanship and problem with authority. Both true. I could put 6 shots in a target the size of a quarter from 50 yards. And yeah, I didn't always follow orders. That's what happens when you grow up on Detroit's east side and spend your teens running with the wrong crowd before your grandma straightened you out. The scars on my left arm reminded me daily why I left the city. Knife fight with a suspect who didn't want to go quietly. I won, but it cost me. Not just the scars, something inside me broke that year. Between Ray's death and that fight, I couldn't handle the violence anymore. Thought the forest would be different. Thought I could outrun the darkness. But darkness has a way of finding you no matter where you hide. I spent my off hours collecting stories from locals. Filled notebooks with tales of strange sightings, unexplained sounds. Most were nonsense, drunk hunters seeing things, kids making up stories. But some had that ring of truth that made you sit up and listen. Like the story from 1972. A group of Boy Scouts camping near Buckley. Their scoutmaster, a Vietnam vet who'd seen real combat, came running into town at 3 in the morning, white as a sheet. Said something stalked their camp. Something big, walking on 2 legs, with a dog's head and human hands. The kids backed him up, every one of them with the same story. Or the priest from 1962 who crashed his car, avoiding what he swore was a demon wolf standing upright in the road. Man of God, never touched alcohol, known for his level head. But he refused to drive that stretch of road ever again, every 10 years like clockwork. Just like Grandma's old stories said, I hummed one of her protection songs as I drove through the fog that night. Couldn't remember all the words, but the melody stuck with me. Thor would have been going crazy in the back seat if he was with me. But I'd left him home. Wish I hadn't. That dog had instincts like you wouldn't believe. The radio crackled again. Motor City, you copy? Yes, Sally. Almost there. Jim and Pete are spooked. They're heading back to base. Want to wait for backup. I thought about it. Smart thing would be to wait, but I'd never been accused of being too smart. Nah, I got this. Probably just a bear kill. Lisa. Sally's voice had that worried tone. Be careful. Something feels off tonight. Copy that, base. Motor City out. I killed the engine at the lakeshore and sat in the sudden silence. The fog was so thick now I could barely see the water. Grabbed my flashlight, checked my weapon, and stepped out into the night. The smell hit me first. Blood. Fresh blood. But mixed with something else. Something wild and musky like wet dog, but stronger, much stronger. Then I saw the deer, and I knew this was no bear kill. I've seen a lot of death in my time. As a Detroit cop, you get used to it. Bodies torn up by bullets, knife wounds, even some sick stuff I won't mention. But this deer, this was different. It wasn't eaten. That's what struck me first. Predators kill to eat. Bears, wolves, mountain lions, they take what they need. This buck was torn apart, like something had played with it. The head was 10 feet from the body, antlers snapped clean off. Organs scattered around like confetti. I knelt next to the body, flashlight beam shaking slightly. The cuts were clean. Too clean, not the ragged tears you'd get from claws or teeth. More like knives. But that didn't make sense either. Then I saw the tracks. My flashlight picked them out in the soft mud by the water's edge. At first, they looked like dog prints. Big ones, maybe a wolf dog or huge German shepherd. 4 toes, pad marks. But as I followed them with my light, they changed. The paw prints stretched out, got longer, the toes spread apart, and then they weren't paw prints anymore. They were footprints, human footprints, bare feet in the mud, walking away from the kill. That's impossible, I whispered. The fog seemed to swallow my words. I stood up, hand on my gun, and played the flashlight around the clearing. Nothing moved. No sound except my own breathing and the gentle lap of water against the shore. Pulled out my radio. Base, this is Motor City, static. Sally, you copy? More static. Then cutting through the white noise, a sound that made my blood run cold. That howl again. But this time it was coming through the radio speaker. Long, mournful, ending in what sounded almost like a laugh. The radio went dead. I was alone out here, me and whatever made those tracks. I should have left right then, should have gotten in my Jeep and driven straight back to headquarters. But cops are curious creatures, and rangers are worse. We need to know, need to understand. So I followed the tracks. They led away from the lake into the deeper woods. Every few yards they'd shift, human to canine, canine to human. Sometimes they'd disappear entirely, only to pick up again 20 feet away. Whatever made them could jump like nothing I'd ever seen. About 100 yards in, I found the tree. Claw marks raked down the bark, starting 7 feet up. Deep gouges, 4 parallel lines. I reached up, had to stand on my toes to touch the lowest mark. Fresh sap oozed from the wounds in the tree. This had happened recently, maybe tonight. Caught in the bark were tufts of fur, grey-brown, coarse. I pulled some free, held it under my flashlight. Didn't match any animal I knew. Too thick for deer, wrong color for bear, too coarse for wolf. My radio crackled back to life. Lisa. The voice was faint, distorted. Lisa. Help. It sounded like Jim, one of the rangers who'd found the deer. But Jim should have been back at base by now. Jim, that you? What's your 20? Help. The trees. It's in the trees. Then screaming. Horrible, gut-wrenching screaming that cut. Off sharp like someone had flipped a switch. Jim! Jim, come in! Silence. Then that howl again. So close this time I could hear it both through the radio and echoing through the trees around me. My flashlight beam swung wildly, searching the canopy above. Movement. A shadow, massive and quick, flowing from tree to tree like smoke. My light couldn't track it, couldn't pin it down, but I caught glimpses, fur, long limbs, and eyes, yellow eyes that reflected my light for just a second before vanishing. I drew my gun. State police, show yourself. Old habits die hard. Even out here, miles from any street, I fell back on my training. Identify yourself. Take control of the situation. Establish authority. But whatever was in those trees, it wasn't impressed by my badge. A growl rolled through the fog, so deep I felt it in my chest. Not from the trees now, from ground level. Behind me, I spun around, flashlight and gun moving together. The beam cut through the fog, revealing nothing but empty forest. But the smell was stronger now. Wet dog and something else, something rotten. Then I heard it speak. Leave. The voice was like gravel in a cement mixer, rough and wrong. Not quite human, not quite animal. The word was clear though, unmistakable. Who's there? My voice didn't shake, proud of that. Leave, my territory. The fog swirled, and for just a moment I saw it, standing between two pine trees, maybe 30 feet away. Massive, 7 feet tall at least, on two legs like a man. But the head was all wrong. Long muzzle, pointed ears, teeth that gleamed in my flashlight beam. Then it was gone. Vanished like it had never been there, but I knew what I'd seen, and I knew the old stories were true. The dogman was real, and I was in its territory. My heart hammered against my ribs like it wanted out. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but I stood my ground. You don't survive 5 years in Detroit homicide by panicking when things get weird, and brother, this was as weird as it gets. The fog shifted again, and suddenly it was 10 feet away. Close enough that I could see details I wished I couldn't. Its fur was matted with what looked like dried blood. The hands, God, they were hands, not paws, ended in black claws at least 3 inches long. But it was the face that would haunt me. Wolf-like, yes, but the eyes, those yellow eyes held intelligence, cold, calculating intelligence. You're not real, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. It tilted its head, exactly like a dog would. Then it smiled. Have you ever seen a wolf smile? Trust me, you don't want to. Real enough to kill, it growled. The voice was clearer now. Definitely male, with an accent I couldn't place. Like someone who learned English as a second language. But not from any country I knew. Those missing hunters, I said. That was you. It took a step closer. My finger tightened on the trigger, but I didn't shoot. Not yet. Part of me still thought this had to be some elaborate hoax. Maybe some sicko in a costume. Trespassers, it said. Like you. I'm a forest ranger. This is public land. That smile. Again. My land, my forest, for centuries. Another step. Now I could smell its breath. Rotten meat and something worse. My stomach churned. The Ojibwe know, it continued. They remember, they stay away when the moon is full. My grandmother's stories flashed through my mind. Warnings about the 10th month, the 10th year. About things that walked like men, but weren't. What do you want? I asked. Want? It laughed, a sound that made my skin crawl. I want what's mine, this forest, these lands. Before your cities, your roads, your noise. Its eyes narrowed. I want you gone. The radio on my belt crackled to life. Lisa, Lisa, are you there? But the voice wasn't Sally's anymore. It was my own. Lisa? Lisa, are you there? My voice coming from my own radio. The creature's grin widened. Shall I answer? I grabbed the radio before it could. Sally, this is Motor City. Send back up to Big Bear Lake. Now. Static. Then Sally's voice, barely audible. Sorry, can't. Interference. Breaking up. The dogman circled me, moving with a predator's grace. No help coming, Ranger. Just you. And me. I kept my gun trained on it, turning as it moved. Those hunters, where are they? Gone. Dead. Some things are worse than death. It stopped, sniffing the air. You smell like family, old blood, the people. My grandmother was Ojibwe. Ah. It nodded slowly. She taught you the old ways? The songs? I didn't answer. How could it know about the songs? Sing for me, granddaughter of the people. Sing the protection song. My mouth went dry. I knew the melody, but the words... Sing. It roared, lunging forward. I squeezed the trigger. The .44 Magnum boomed in the night, the sound enormous. The bullet caught the creature in the shoulder, spinning it around. It should have torn its arm off. That caliber could drop a grizzly. The dogman stumbled, then straightened. As I watched in horror, the wound began to close. Steam rose from its shoulder as flesh knitted back together. "Silver," it said, almost conversationally. "You need silver, little ranger. Your grandmother knew that." My hand dropped to the hunting knife on my belt. Grandmother's knife, with its silver inlay. The creature saw the gesture and nodded. "There, you begin to understand. This is not your world of science and radios. This is the old world, where ancient things still walk." "What are you?" I whispered. I am what I am, guardian, predator, the price the forest demands." It flexed its clawed hands. "Every 10 years I wake. Every 10 years I feed. This is the way. Why are you talking to me? Why not just kill me?" "Because you interest me, granddaughter. You have the old blood, but you serve the new world. You hunt wrongdoers, yes? Protect the innocent." I nodded, not trusting my voice. "Then perhaps we are not so different. I protect, too, this forest, these lands, from those who would destroy them. By killing people, by reminding humans they are not masters here, that some places still belong to older things." The radio crackled again. This time it was Sally's voice, clear and terrified. "Lisa! Oh God, Lisa, answer me! There's something outside the station. Oh God, it's looking at me through the window. Lisa, what is that thing?" The dogman's eyes glowed brighter. "Your friend sees my brother. Yes, there are 2 of us this cycle. He guards the north woods, I the south." My blood ran cold. Sally was alone at the station. "If your brother hurts her, that depends on you, Ranger. Will you leave our forest? Take your people and go? Or must we remind you why the old ones feared the night?" I thought of Sally, of those missing hunters, of all the people who might wander into these woods. "I can't do that," I said. "This isn't your private hunting ground. People have a right to be here." The creature sighed, almost sadly. "Then we are enemies after all." It charged. You know that moment in a horror movie when everything slows down? The monster lunges, and you can see every detail, the fangs, the claws, the murder in its eyes. That's exactly what happened, except this wasn't a movie. The dogman moved faster than anything that size should. 1 second it was 20 feet away, the next it was on me. I got off 2 more shots. Both hit center mass, both did nothing but make it matter. Then it hit me like a freight train. We went down hard, rolling through the dead leaves. Those claws raked across my jacket, shredding the heavy ranger coat like paper. Without that thick material, I'd have been gutted right there. I still had my knife, Grandma's silver knife. As we rolled, I yanked it free and slashed wildly. The blade caught its forearm, and for the first time I heard it howl in real pain. The silver hissed where it touched its flesh like bacon in a hot pan. The creature jerked back, giving me just enough space to scramble to my feet. "Silver!" it snarled, holding its wounded arm. "The old woman taught you well." I kept the knife between us, trying to catch my breath. She taught me enough. My radio crackled. Sally's voice, barely a whisper. "Lisa, it's inside now. Oh God, it's inside the station. I'm hiding in the supply closet. Please, please help me." The dogman's eyes flicked to my radio, then back to me. "Your friend is brave, but bravery won't save her from my brother. He's always been less patient than me." "Call him off," I said. "Sally's done nothing to you." Neither had those hunters, or the campers before them, or the settlers before them. It began circling again, keeping just out of knife range. "This is our nature. We are what we are." "What are you exactly?" "Werewolves." That made it laugh, a horrible, growling sound. "Werewolves are European fairy tales. We are older. We were here when the first humans crossed the ice. We saw your ancestors paint their stories on cave walls. If you're so ancient and powerful, why do you need to hunt humans? Need?" It tilted its head. "Do you need to eat chocolate? To drink wine? No. but you enjoy it. Those yellow eyes gleamed. Humans are special. Your fear adds flavor. Your screams are music. And every 10 years, we feast. The radio hissed. With static, then Sally's voice came through, terrified. Lisa, it found me. It's trying to get in the closet. The door won't hold much. A crash, Sally's scream. Then nothing but static. Sally! I shouted into the radio. Sally, answer me! The dogman's grin widened. Too late, Ranger. My brother is thorough. White-hot rage flooded through me. Sally was 22, fresh out of college. She had a little sister in nursing school. Plans to get married next spring. She loved her job, always cheerful on the radio even during the worst shifts, and now she was probably dead. I charged the creature, knife flashing in the moonlight. Not smart, not careful, just pure fury. The silver blade caught it across the chest, drawing a line of sizzling flesh. It howled and backhanded me, sending me flying into a tree. Stars exploded across my vision. I tasted blood, but I held onto the knife. Brave, it said, touching the wound on its chest. Foolish but brave. Your ancestors would be proud, I spat. Blood. Go to hell. Been there. Didn't like the weather. It moved closer, cautious now. Tell me, Ranger, do you know why silver hurts us? Don't care. You should. It's not the metal itself. It's the belief. Humans believe silver is pure, holy. That belief gives it power. It crouched, just out of reach. Just like your grandmother's songs had power. The old magic still works if you believe. I remembered. Something Grandma used to say, it's not the words that matter, Lisa. It's the heart behind them. Looking at this monster, this thing that had probably just killed Sally, I felt something shift inside me. Not just fear or anger anymore. Something older, deeper. The same thing I'd felt as a kid when Grandma sang the old songs. Ancient one. I said in Ojibwe, the words coming from somewhere deep in my memory. I see you. The dogman straightened up, surprised. You speak the old tongue? I speak enough. I stood slowly, keeping the knife ready. I know what you are now. Not wolf, not man. You're a Manitou, a spirit. Very good, granddaughter. And I know how to fight spirits. I began to sing, not loud, not strong. I didn't remember all the words. But I remembered the intent, the purpose. This wasn't just a song. It was a weapon older than guns or knives. The dogman's eyes widened. Stop that! I kept singing, walking forward now. The words were wrong, probably mangled, but the melody was true. And I believed. God help me, in that moment, I believed with every fiber of my being. The creature backed away. I said, stop! This forest doesn't belong to you, I said, still chanting. It belongs to all of us, the living and the dead, the old ones and the new. You don't understand what you're doing. I understand enough. The silver knife in my hand began to feel warm. The moonlight seemed brighter, and the dogman was afraid. Your time is over, I said. Go back to sleep, wait another 10 years. I cannot. The moon is full. I must hunt. You must leave. I shouted the last word with all the power I could muster. The creature howled, not in rage this time, but in pain. It clutched its head, staggering backward. This isn't over, Ranger. My brother still lives. He'll avenge me. Then I'll face him too. With one last snarl, the dogman turned and fled into the forest. I watched it go, still gripping the knife, still humming the protection song. Then my radio came to life. Lisa? Sally's voice, shaky but alive. Lisa, the weirdest thing just happened. There was this, I don't even know what, this huge thing trying to get in the closet. Then it just stopped, looked confused, and then it ran away, just took off into the woods. I sagged against a tree, relief making my knees weak. Sally, thank God. Are you okay? Yeah, I think so. Scared out of my mind, but okay. Lisa, what's going on? What was that thing? I looked out into the dark forest, thinking of the creature out there somewhere, wounded but not dead, waiting. I'll explain when I get back, I said. Lock all the doors. Don't go outside for anything. Okay. Hey, Lisa. Yeah? Be careful. I smiled grimly. Always am. But I knew this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The dogman was still out there, and it would be back. They always come back. The drive back to the station felt like the longest 20 minutes of my life. Every shadow looked like the dogman. Every tree seemed to hide yellow eyes. My hands shook on the steering wheel, adrenaline finally wearing off. When I pulled up to the ranger station, every light was on. Sally had her face pressed against the window, and I saw the relief when she recognized my Jeep. She unlocked the door just long enough for me to run inside. What happened to you? She gasped at my torn jacket, the blood on my face. Long story. I locked the door behind me, checked the windows, but we're not safe yet. There's another one out there. Another what? Sally was pale, her hands trembling as she poured coffee. Lisa, I don't even know what I saw. It was like a wolf, but it walked upright. And its hands. It had hands. I know. I took the coffee gratefully. Sally, what I'm about to tell you sounds crazy, but you saw it yourself, so maybe you'll believe me. I told her everything. The dogman, the missing hunters, my grandmother's stories. The fact that these things had been here for centuries, hunting every 10 years. Sally listened, her eyes getting wider with each word. But that's impossible, she whispered when I finished. You saw it. I know, but... She shook her head. Werewolves aren't real, not werewolves. Something older, something that was here first. I sipped my coffee, wincing as it hit my split lip. And there are two of them. Sally's radio crackled. We both jumped. Base, this is Unit 3. Anyone copy? That was Mike Novak, one of our senior rangers. I grabbed the mic. Unit 3, this is Base. Go ahead, Mike. Lisa? Thank God I'm at the old Mitchell cabin, about 5 miles north of you. Found something you need to see. It's bad. My stomach dropped. The missing hunters? Yeah. What's left of them? And Lisa. There's something else. Writing on the wall. In blood. Sally made a small sound of horror. I squeezed her shoulder. What's it say, Mike? Static. Then it says, she cannot save you all. Lisa, what's going on? I closed my eyes. The dogman was sending a message to me. Mike, listen carefully. Get back to your vehicle and return to base. Don't stop for anything. If you see anything strange, and I mean anything, you floor it, understand? Lisa, you're scaring me. Good. Scared keeps you alive. Now move. I turned to Sally. Call the sheriffs. Department, tell them we need everyone they can spare. And call Jim and Pete. Tell them to stay home tonight. What are you going to do? I checked my weapon, touched the silver knife at my belt. I'm going to end this. Lisa, no, you can't go back out there. I have to. That thing knows I hurt it. It'll come for me. Better I face it on my terms than wait for it to pick us off one by one. I headed for the door, but Sally grabbed my arm. At least wait for backup. There's no time. And honestly, regular cops won't be able to handle this. They don't have silver. They don't know the old ways. Neither do you. Not really. She was right. I knew bits and pieces, fragments of songs and stories, but it had been enough to drive the creature away once. I know enough, I said. And I have this. I touched the silver knife. Grandma always said it was special, blessed by a medicine man. I thought it was just a story, but now you believe. Now I believe. Sally bit her lip. There's something else. In the supply closet, back corner, old box marked historical artifacts. Jim found it when we were cleaning last month. I raised an eyebrow. What's in it? Native American stuff, arrowheads, pottery, and... She hesitated. Jim thought they were silver, old silver bullets. My heart jumped. Show me. The box was dusty, hadn't been opened in years. Inside, wrapped in old cloth, were indeed bullets. Not modern rounds, but old-fashioned musket balls. Silver, tarnished with age. "Can you load these in your gun?" Sally asked. "No, wrong caliber, but—" I had an idea. "You still have that silver necklace, the one your mom gave you?" She touched her neck. "Yeah, why?" "I need it, and I need the maintenance tools." 20 minutes later, I had what I needed. It wasn't pretty. Silver shavings packed into hollow point rounds, Sally's melted necklace chain wrapped around the bullets. But if silver hurt these things, this might actually kill one. "Ranger arts and crafts," Sally said, trying to joke, but her voice shook. "Let's hope it works." I loaded the modified rounds into my 44. "Lock up after me. Don't open the door for anyone except me or the sheriff." "How will I know it's really you?" "Good question." The dogman could mimic voices. "I'll knock 3 times, pause, then twice more. Our old Detroit code." She nodded. "Be careful." "Always am." But as I stepped back into the night, I wondered if careful would be enough. The fog had lifted and the full moon hung bright overhead. Somewhere in these woods, 2 ancient predators were hunting, and now I was hunting them. I drove toward the Mitchell cabin, where Mike had found the bodies. The dogman wanted me to see its handiwork, wanted me to know what I was up against. Fine, I'd take the bait. The cabin appeared in my headlights, dark and abandoned. Mike's patrol car was already gone. Good, he'd listened. I parked and got out, every sense on high alert. The smell hit me first, death, but underneath it, that wild musk I now associated with the dogman. The cabin door hung open, creaking in the wind. I approached carefully, gun drawn, flashlight sweeping the area. Nothing moved. Inside was worse than I'd imagined. I won't describe what was left of those hunters. Let's just say the dogman had taken its time, but the message on the wall was clear, written in blood that was still wet. "She cannot save you all." Below it, more writing. "Choose, granddaughter, leave, and some may live. Stay, and all will die." I heard the growl before I saw it, deep, rumbling, coming from everywhere at once. The dogman was here. "I choose option 3, I called out. "You die, we live," laughter echoed through the cabin. "Brave words. Let's see if your silver bullets work better than your songs." It knew. Somehow, it knew what I'd done. "Only one way to find out," I said, backing toward the door. Indeed, the window exploded inward. The dogman burst through in a shower of glass, moving faster than anything that size should. I fired twice. Both shots hit. Both made it howl. The silver-packed bullets sizzled where they struck, but it didn't go down. Instead, it laughed through its pain. Better, much better, but not enough. It lunged. I dove sideways, firing again. This time I saw the wound, a smoking hole in its shoulder that wasn't healing like before. "Silver slows the healing," it growled, "but I've lived too long to die." From pinpricks, we faced each other across the ruined cabin. 3 shots left, had to make them count. "Where's your brother?" I asked, buying time. "Coming. He smelled your fear at the station, decided the girl would make a fine dessert." My blood went cold. "Sally." The dogman saw my reaction and grinned. "Yes, while you waste time with me, he hunts her. The locked doors won't stop him, nothing will. It was lying, had to be, but what if—" "Tick-tock, Ranger. Every second you spend here is a second closer to your friend's death." I had to choose. Stay and fight this one, or race back to save Sally. But I knew it was a trap either way. These things were smart, coordinated. They'd planned this. Then I remembered something else Grandma used to say. When the wolf makes you choose between 2 paths, make your own trail. I smiled. You're right. I can't be in 2 places at once. The dogman tensed, ready for my attack. Instead, I shot the kerosene lamp hanging from the ceiling. The cabin erupted in flames, fire everywhere. The old cabin went up like it was made of gasoline, dry wood, years of dust, and that kerosene lamp made the perfect firestorm. The dogman howled, not in pain, but in rage. Clever little ranger! I didn't wait around to chat. I dove through the door as flames licked at my jacket. Behind me, I heard the creature crashing through the burning walls. These things might be ancient and powerful, but fire is older than all of us. I ran for my jeep, keys already in hand. The engine roared to life just as the dogman burst through the cabin's front wall, fur singed and smoking. You think fire will... "Stop me!" it roared. "No!" I shouted back, throwing the jeep in reverse. "But it'll slow you down." I floored it, tires spinning on the dirt road. In my rearview mirror, I saw the dogman standing in front of the burning cabin, yellow eyes tracking my escape. Then it threw back its head and howled, a long calling sound that made my skin crawl, calling its brother. The drive back to the station was a blur of trees and shadow. I pushed the jeep as fast as it would go, praying I wasn't too late. The radio crackled with static, but I couldn't raise Sally. Come on, I muttered, taking a turn so fast I almost rolled. Then I saw it. Another jeep, abandoned in the middle of the road. Mike's jeep. I slammed on the brakes, skidding to a stop. The driver's door hung open, blood on the seat. Claw marks on the hood. "Mike?" I called out, gun ready. "Mike, you out there?" Nothing, just wind in the trees. I couldn't stop. Sally needed me, but I couldn't just leave Mike either, if he was still alive. I grabbed my flashlight and did a quick sweep of the area. That's when I found him. Mike was propped against a tree, holding his stomach. Blood seeped between his fingers. He was pale, breathing shallow, but alive. "Lisa," he croaked. Came out of nowhere. "So fast." "Easy, Mike." I knelt beside him, checking his wounds, deep slashes, but not immediately fatal. "We need to get you help." "It talked to me," he whispered. Said I was a message to you. Said, tell the granddaughter. She can't protect them all. The same message. These things were definitely working together. I heard branches snap in the darkness. Close, too close. "Can you walk?" Mike tried to stand, gasped in pain. "Don't think so." I had seconds to decide. Leave Mike here and race to save Sally, or try to get him to safety and risk being too late. No choice at all, really. "Come on, big guy." I got his arm over my shoulder, half carried him to my jeep. He groaned with every step, but he didn't complain. Rangers are tough. I got him into the passenger seat, ran around to the driver's side. As I climbed in, I saw yellow eyes reflecting in my headlights. The brother. It stood in the road ahead, even bigger than the first one. Its fur was lighter, almost white in the moonlight, and it was smiling. "Going somewhere, grandmother?" I started the engine. "Get out of my way." "Or what? You'll run me down." It spread its arms wide. "Please, try." I revved the engine. The creature didn't move. "Your friend at the station?" "Sally, yes? She smells like strawberries. Did you know that? Strawberries and fear. If you touched her..." "Oh, I haven't. Yet. But my brother is on his way. He's upset about the fire. Very upset." It took a step closer. "You have what, 2 bullets left? Not enough for both of us." It was right. 2 silver bullets. 2 monsters. And Sally alone at the station. Mike grabbed my arm. "Lisa," he wheezed. "Ram it." "What? Ram it? I'll shoot." He pulled his service weapon with a shaking hand. "Won't kill it, but might distract it." "Mike, you can barely sit up. So drive straight." The white dogman was only 20 feet away now. "What are you two whispering about? Planning something heroic?" I looked at Mike. He nodded. "Yeah," I called out. "Something like that." I floored. The jeep lurched forward, engine screaming. The dogman's eyes widened. It hadn't expected us to actually do it. At the last second, it tried to jump aside. Not fast enough. We hit it doing 40 miles an hour. The impact was tremendous, like hitting a brick wall. The dogman rolled up the hood, smashed into the windshield, then tumbled over the roof. Mike emptied his clip through the broken glass. I didn't slow down. In the mirror, I saw the creature, getting back up, shaking its head, hurt but not down. That was awesome, Mike gasped. Then he passed out. 5 minutes later, I skidded into the station parking lot. Every window was intact, no signs of attack. I laid on the horn, 3 long, 2 short, our signal. Sally's face appeared in the window, alive, unhurt. She ran to unlock the door. Lisa, thank God. I tried calling, but she saw Mike. Oh no, help me get him inside, quick. We dragged Mike into the station, laid him on the break room couch. Sally grabbed the first aid kit while I reloaded my gun. 2 silver bullets left. What happened? Sally pressed gauze against Mike's wounds. Message delivery. These things like, they're drama. I checked the windows. We need to... The lights went out. Sally gasped. I grabbed her arm. Shh, they're here. In the darkness, we heard it. Claws scratching on the roof, walking. Slow, deliberate steps. Then that voice, muffled by the walls but clear enough. Little pigs, let me come in. The scratching moved to the walls. Testing, probing. Generator, I whispered to Sally. Back room, go. She nodded, felt her way through the darkness. I stood guard, gun ready, listening to those terrible claws explore our defenses. A window cracked, not breaking, just cracking, like ice under pressure. I can smell your fear, the dogman called. 3 scared humans, 1 bleeding. Delicious. The backup generator kicked in. Lights flickered on, and there it was, face pressed against the window, grinning at me. The first one, the dark, furred brother. There you are, it said, ready for round 2. Behind it I saw movement, the white one circling the building. 2 monsters, 2 bullets, 3 humans to protect. The window cracked more. Any second now, it would shatter. I thought of my grandmother. Tiny but fierce, telling me stories by firelight. Sometimes, Lisa, the old ways are the only ways. The old ways. Sally, I called. The historical box. Bring it, now. She ran to get it while I kept my gun on the dogman. Its grin faltered slightly. What are you planning, grandmother? You'll see. Sally returned with the box. I dug through it frantically. Arrowheads, pottery, old photos, and there, at the bottom, a small leather pouch, black with age. What is it? Sally asked. I opened it carefully. Inside was powder, grey-white, fine as flour. It smelled like sage and something else, something old. Sacred ash, I said, from the fires of the old ceremonies. The dogman's eyes narrowed. You don't know how to use that? Want to bet? I grabbed a handful of the ash, whispered the words my grandmother taught me. Not a full song. I didn't have time. Just the words of binding, of protection. Then I blew the ash at the window. The effect was immediate. The dogman recoiled like I'd thrown acid. Where the ash touched the glass, it glowed with soft white light. The windows, I told Sally. All of them. Quickly. We ran through the station, marking each window with the sacred ash. The dogmen prowled outside, snarling in frustration. They tested each barrier, but wherever the ash was, they couldn't touch. Clever, the dark one growled, but that won't last forever. Doesn't have to, I said. Just until sunrise. Both creatures froze. Then they looked at each other. She knows, the white one said. Impossible. The knowledge was lost. But it wasn't. My grandmother had told me in one of her stories, these things could only hunt under the full moon. When the sun rose, they had to sleep. 10 years of sleep. I looked at the clock. 4:47 a.m. Sunrise was at 6:15, an hour and a half. We just had to survive until then. The dogmen began to circle faster, looking for any gap in our defenses. They were running out of time too. Mike's lost a lot of blood, Sally whispered. He needs a hospital. I know, but we can't leave. Not yet. Outside, the brothers had stopped. They stood side by side, staring at the station. Then they began to speak in a language I didn't know. Guttural, ancient sounds that made my teeth ache. "What are they doing?" Sally asked. I had a bad feeling. "Nothing good." The ground began to shake. Just a tremor at first, then stronger. Books fell off shelves. Coffee mugs rattled on the counter. They're calling something, I realized. Something bigger. The shaking stopped. For a moment everything was quiet. Then we heard it. Trees falling in the distance. Something enormous moving through the forest, coming our way. The dogman grinned. "You protected the windows," the Dark One said, "but did you protect the floor? The floor." The ground erupted beneath us. Wood exploded upward as something massive burst through the floorboards. Sally screamed. I grabbed her, pulling her back as splinters flew everywhere. It was like a giant mole. But wrong. All wrong. Pale flesh. No eyes, mouth full of grinding teeth. The size of a bear, but long like a snake. It writhed up through the hole, making sounds like breaking glass. "Earth Digger," the white dogman called from outside. "Our cousin from below." The thing's head swung toward us, nostrils flaring. No eyes, but it knew exactly where we were. I shot it. The silver bullet hit its thick hide and bounced off. "Silvers for moon hunters," the dark dogman laughed. "Not for the deep dwellers." The digger lunged. I shoved Sally toward the back room and dove the other way. The creature's teeth snapped shut where we'd been standing, taking a chunk out of the counter. "The ash!" Sally yelled. "Try the ash!" Worth a shot. I grabbed another handful from the pouch and threw it at the digger. Where it touched, the creature's flesh smoked and bubbled. It shrieked, a sound like nails on chalkboard, and retreated partway into its hole, but it didn't leave. "Just pain," the white dogman said. "Not enough to stop it, and you're running out of ash, grandmother." He was right. The pouch was nearly empty, and now we had a hole in our defenses big enough to drive a truck through. Mike groaned from the couch. His eyes fluttered open. What's happening?" "Stay down," I told him. "We've got company." The digger circled its hole like a shark, waiting. Outside, the dogmen paced, patient now. They knew we were trapped. I checked the clock. 5:20, less than an hour to sunrise. "Sally," I said quietly, "in the supply closet, top shelf, road flares." "Flares. Get them, all of them." She ran to get them while I kept my gun on the digger. It hissed at me, showing those grinding teeth. Up close, I could see its skin was translucent. I could actually see its organs pulsing inside. Sally came back with an armful of flares. "Now what?" "These things live underground. No light down there." I grabbed a flare. "Let's see how it likes brightness." I lit the flare. Red fire blazed to life, harsh and bright. The digger immediately shrank back, making that horrible sound again. "Help me light more," I said. "Make a circle." We lit 6 flares, placing them around the hole. The red light and smoke filled the room. The digger retreated deeper, but didn't go all the way down. "Clever again," the dark dogman called. "But flares burn out. The sun is still far away, and we are very, very patient." He was right. The flares would last maybe 15 minutes. "Then what?" Mike struggled to sit up. "Lisa, the radio room. Emergency broadcast system." "What about it?" "Connected to the fire tower. On Mount Bradley. Spotlight up there, million candle power." I stared at him. The fire tower spotlight. It was bright enough to be seen for miles. If we could turn it on, aim it down at the station. "But someone has to go up there," Sally said. "Turn it on manually." "I'll go," Mike said, then immediately groaned and lay back down. "You can barely move," I said. "I'll go." "Then who protects us?" Sally asked. "Good question. Leave Sally alone with a wounded Mike and 2 monsters waiting outside." "Not happening." "I'll go," Sally said. "No, Lisa, I'm the fastest runner here. Track team in college, remember? And you're the only one who can shoot." She grabbed the Jeep keys from the counter. "The tower's only 2 miles away. I can make it." I wanted to argue, but she was right. I was the only one who knew how to fight these things, and she was fast. The dogman will chase you. Then I'll drive fast." She tried to smile. "Besides, they want you, not me. I'm just dessert, remember?" The flares were already starting to dim. We had to decide. "Okay," I said. "But take this." I gave her my silver knife, just in case. She hugged me quickly. "Keep them busy. I'll light up this place like Christmas." "Sally, wait!" But she was already moving. She sprinted for the door, yanked it open, and ran for the jeep. The dogman's head snapped toward her. "Go!" I yelled, firing my last silver bullet at the white one. It hit him in the leg, making him stumble. Sally made it to the jeep, engine roaring to life. The dark dogman leaped for her, but she was already moving, tires squealing. He missed by inches. For a second, I thought both creatures would chase her, but only the white one took off after the jeep, limping but still incredibly fast. The dark one turned back to me. "Just you and me now, grandmother." As it should be. The flares were dying. The digger was getting bolder, creeping back up through the hole. And I was out of silver bullets, but I still had the ash. And more importantly, I had time to kill. I looked at the clock. 5:35. Sally needed 10 minutes. To reach the tower, maybe 5 more to climb it and turn on the light. 15 minutes. I had to survive 15 minutes. The last flare sputtered out. The digger surged upward. The dogman grinned at the window. "Hey," I called to him. "Want to hear a story? My grandmother told the best stories." He tilted his head. "Stories won't save you." "Maybe not, but this one's about you, about where you came from, why you're really here." His eyes narrowed. "What do you know about us?" "More than you think." I backed away from the digger, leading it toward the far wall, away from Mike. She told me about the first dogman, the human who made a deal with the spirits of the forest. The creature actually paused. Impossible. That knowledge died with the last shamans. Did it? I kept talking, kept moving. A warrior who wanted power, who asked the spirits to make him the ultimate hunter. They granted his wish, but the power came with a price, the dogman finished. The hunger, the curse, to hunt forever, never satisfied. And every 10 years, you have to do this. Have to hunt humans, not because you want to, but because you have to. It's the deal. The digger lunged. I dodged, threw my last handful of ash. It shrieked and pulled back. "You understand nothing," the dogman snarled. "We are not cursed. We are blessed. We are perfect predators." "Then why can you only hunt during the full moon? Why do you sleep for 10 years? Doesn't sound perfect to me." He roared and slammed against the window. The ash protection held, but barely. Cracks spider-webbed across the glass. 5:45. 10 more minutes. "You know what I think?" I said, still backing away from the digger. "I think you hate this. Having to wake up every decade, hunt and kill, then go back to sleep. Never changing, never growing, stuck in the same cycle forever." "Shut up. That's why you talk to me instead of just killing me. You're lonely. You want someone to understand." The window shattered. Glass flew everywhere. The dogman burst through, not caring about the pain the ash caused him. He was done talking. I ran. Not toward the back room, that would trap me. Instead, I ran for the radio room, slammed the door, locked it. Not that it would hold long. The digger's grinding teeth chewed through the wall. The dogman's claws raked the door. Mike was alone out there, helpless on the couch. 50. 5 minutes until sunrise. Where was Sally? Then I saw it. Through the small window. A light on Mount Bradley, faint at first, then brighter. The spotlight was warming up, the door splintered. A clawed hand reached through, feeling for the lock. "Sally," I whispered, "please hurry." The spotlight blazed to full power. A beam of brilliant white light swept across the forest, searching. It hit the station, and suddenly everything was bright as day. The digger shrieked and plunged back into its hole. The dogman howled, covering his eyes. His fur was smoking where the light touched it. "Burns," he screamed. "It burns like the sun," because it was artificial sunlight. Million candle power, Mike had said. Like having our own tiny sun. The dogman staggered backward, trying to find shadows, but Sally was good. She kept the beam moving, tracking him. His fur was actually catching fire now. "This isn't over," he roared. 10 years! In 10 years we return. "I'll be waiting," I said. He ran like his tail was on fire, which it kind of was, out into the forest, fleeing the light, fleeing the approaching dawn. I heard the Jeep engine outside. Sally was back. I ran out of the radio room, found Mike conscious and amazed. Did we win?" "Yeah, Mike, we won." Sally burst through the door, my silver knife still in her hand. The white one's gone. He just collapsed when the real sun started coming up. Turned into mist and disappeared. I hugged her tight. "You did great, perfect timing. Lisa, look." I turned. Where the digger's hole had been, there was now smooth floor. Like it had never been there, and the windows were intact. Even the one the dogman had shattered. "What happened?" Sally asked. "Magic rules," I said. "When the sun rises, everything goes back to normal, like none of it ever happened." "But it did happen, right? We're not all crazy?" I showed her the empty ash pouch, the bullet casings on the floor, my torn jacket. "It happened. Later, after the ambulance took Mike to the hospital, after we'd filed reports that mentioned bear attacks and nothing else, Sally and I sat on the station's front steps, watching the sunrise. 10 years, she said. "They'll be back in 10 years. 1992, I nodded. "Mark your calendar." "Will you be here?" I thought about it. Thought about going back to Detroit, about running from what I'd seen. Then I thought about my grandmother's stories, about the promise I'd made to protect these woods and the people in them. "Yeah," I said, "I'll be here." "Good." Sally bumped my shoulder with hers. "Because next time, we're getting more silver bullets." I laughed. "And more ash, lots more ash." The sun climbed higher, painting the forest gold. Somewhere out there, 2 ancient hunters slept, waiting for their next cycle. And somewhere on Mount Bradley, a spotlight stood ready. 10 years. We had 10 years to prepare. This time, we'd be ready. I never did go back to Detroit. Stayed right, here in Manistee Forest, watching over these woods. Sally stayed too. She became head ranger when I retired in 2001. We spent those 10 years preparing. Researched old Native American texts, collected silver, learned the old songs properly. When 1992 rolled around, we were ready. The dogmen came back just like they promised, but this time we had a whole team trained and equipped to deal with them. They came back again in 2002 and 2012. Each time we were waiting. I'm writing this. In October 2022, I'm 75 now, too old for monster hunting. But Sally's daughter Emma just joined the Rangers. I've been teaching her the old ways, just like my grandmother taught me. The dogmen are due back tonight. It's October 31st, and the full moon is rising red through the trees. Emma's out there. Now with her team, silver bullets loaded, sacred ash ready. My radio crackles, "Grandma Lisa, we've got eye shine at impossible height. They're here." I smile and key the mic. "Remember what I taught you, and Emma?" "Yeah." "Make your great-grandmother proud, because that's how it works. The old stories get passed down, the knowledge survives. And every 10 years, when ancient hunters walk the woods, we're ready. We're always ready." My name is Miguel Ortega, and I'm about to tell you about the most terrifying night of my life. It happened back in December 1998, when everyone was freaking out about Y2K. You know, when they thought all the computers would crash when the year changed to 2000. I was 29 years old, working as a forest ranger in Pisgah National Forest in North Carolina. That day, December 29th, it was raining like crazy. The kind of cold rain that soaks through your jacket and makes your bones ache. I was out there testing our new GPS equipment, making sure everything would work when the calendar flipped to the new millennium. The fog was so thick I could barely see 10 feet in front of me. I should probably tell you a bit about myself. I'm the tech guy for the Forest Service, the youngest ranger in our district. My family back in Texas wanted me to be some big-shot computer programmer in Silicon Valley, but I chose the mountains instead. I've got a master's degree in computer science, but I'd rather fix trail cameras than sit in some office all day. My abuela always told me stories about forest spirits and duendes. You know, like goblins from Mexican folklore. I never really believed them until that night. 3 hikers had gone missing near Brown Mountain. That's the place where people see those weird lights floating in the sky. Nobody knows what causes them, but they've been showing up for over 100 years. The Forest Service had sent me out to look for the hikers because all our regular search teams were busy with Y2K prep work. As I walked through the thick rhododendron bushes, my new handheld computer started acting weird. The screen kept jumping between dates, 1900, 2000, 1998, like it couldn't figure out what year it was. Then I heard something that made my skin crawl. A sound like a goat bleating, but deeper, more human. It was coming from the direction of the old railroad tunnels. The smell hit me next. If you've ever been around goats, you know that musky smell they have. But this was different, stronger, mixed with something rotten. It was so bad I had to cover my nose with my jacket sleeve. We'd been getting reports all week about dead farm animals near the abandoned Wiseman's View Railroad. Cows and sheep torn apart but not eaten, just killed and left there. The local news said it was probably a mountain lion, but I'd seen mountain lion kills before. This was something else. My cell phone had no signal. Not unusual in these mountains. The new cell tower they'd built on the old Cherokee burial ground was supposed to fix that, but it only made things worse. Electronics had been acting strange ever since they put it up. All around the forest, Y2K preppers had set up camps. These were people so worried about the world ending that they'd come out here to live off the land. Made my job harder because now I had to figure out which tracks belonged to lost hikers and which belonged to paranoid campers. Standing there in the rain, with my computer glitching and that awful smell in the air, I knew something was very wrong. But I had a job to do. Those 3 hikers were counting on me to find them. I adjusted my backpack, touched the silver crucifix my father had given me for luck, and headed toward those old railroad tunnels where the bleating sound had come from. If I'd known what was waiting for me in there, I would have turned around and run the other way, but I didn't know. And by the time I figured it out, it was too late. The first weird thing I found was footprints. But these weren't normal footprints. They started as hoof prints, like from a goat or deer. Then halfway through a step, they changed into human footprints. I bent down in the mud, shining my flashlight on them. How was that even possible? I took photos with my digital camera, but the screen showed nothing but static. About a mile from the tunnels, I found something that made my stomach turn. Camping gear, a tent, sleeping bags, backpacks hanging 40 feet up in the hemlock. Trees, not just thrown up there, but placed carefully like someone was making a display. The fabric was shredded, and there were dark stains that looked like blood. I radioed back to base. This is Ortega. I found the missing hikers' camp. Something's not right here. Static, then a voice, but not dispatch. It sounded like a child crying, "Help me, please help me." But kids weren't allowed in this part of the forest. And the voice, it was coming from multiple directions at once. I checked our trail cameras next. We'd set them up to track wildlife. But when I popped out the memory card and put it in my laptop, the files were corrupted. All except one. For 3 seconds, the camera had captured something walking on 2 legs. It was huge, maybe 8 feet tall, with what looked like horns on its head. Then the image scrambled into digital noise. My GPS started acting crazy again. It showed me in 5 different places at the same time. One reading said I was in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Another put me in downtown New York. The dates kept changing too. 1865, 1999, 1776. Nothing made sense. That's when I found the coyotes. 6 of them, arranged in a perfect circle near Table Rock. They'd been dead for days, but no animal had touched them, no bugs either. Just 6 coyotes in a circle, eyes wide open, staring at the sky. I found symbols carved into the trees nearby. Some looked like Cherokee writing. I'd learned a bit from the tribal officers who worked with us. But mixed in were other symbols I'd never seen before. They made my eyes hurt just looking at them. The bleating sound came again, closer now. It echoed off the mountain walls, making it hard to tell which direction it came from. Then I heard something that froze me in place. A scream that started human and ended not human, like someone's voice breaking apart and turning into an animal's roar. I reached the entrance to the old railroad tunnel the Norfolk Southern Company had built. It in 1910, cutting straight through the mountain. They'd abandoned it in the 1960s after too many accidents. Workers had died in there, cave-ins, mysterious disappearances. The company sealed it up, but someone had broken through the barriers recently. My flashlight beam couldn't penetrate the darkness inside. The tunnel mouth looked like a throat waiting to swallow me. Water dripped from the ceiling, making sounds that almost formed words. I pulled out the old railroad logs I'd copied from the library. The workers who built this tunnel had written about strange things. Animals walking upright, tools disappearing and showing up in impossible places, men hearing their dead relatives calling them deeper into the mountain. December 15th, 1910. Henderson quit today. Says he saw the devil himself in tunnel section 3. Had the head of a goat, but walked like a man. 3 others saw it too. I looked at my watch. The digital display was flashing random numbers. But my dad's old wind-up watch on my other wrist said 8:47 p.m. The sun had set hours ago. If those hikers were in this tunnel, I had to find them. Before going in, I tried my radio one more time. "Base, this is Ortega. I'm entering the abandoned Norfolk Southern Tunnel. If you don't hear from me in 2 hours, send backup." Static. Then that child's voice again. "Help me, Miguel. I'm so cold." It knew my name. I touched my father's crucifix, took a deep breath of the foul-smelling air, and stepped into the tunnel. Behind me I heard hoofbeats on rock. But when I spun around, nothing was there, just the darkness waiting. The tunnel was colder than the forest outside. My breath came out in white clouds, and water dripped steadily from the ceiling. Every drop echoed like a gunshot. I walked carefully, sweeping my flashlight from side to side. The beam seemed weaker in here, like the darkness was eating the light. About 100 feet in, I saw it for the first time. At first, I thought it was a man standing at the edge of my flashlight beam. But as I got closer, my brain couldn't make sense of what I was seeing. It was 8 feet tall with the muscular body of a human, but covered in coarse brown fur. And its head was that of a goat. Curved horns scraped against the tunnel ceiling as it turned to look at me. Its eyes glowed red in the darkness, not reflecting my light, actually glowing, like hot coals. We stared at each other for what felt like forever, but was probably only seconds. Then it opened its mouth and spoke, not in bleats or animal sounds, but in perfect English. "Miguel," it said, using the voice of my girlfriend Maria. "Why did you leave me alone?" I stumbled backward, my heart hammering against my ribs. This thing knew Maria's voice. How it dropped to all fours and charged. I've never seen anything move that fast. 1 second it was 50 feet away, the next it was right in front of me. I dove to the side, scraping my hands on the rough tunnel floor. The creature's hooves struck sparks where I'd been standing. I ran deeper into the tunnel, knowing it was stupid but having nowhere else to go. Behind me, I heard it walking upright again, its hooves clicking on the old railroad ties. Click, clack, click, clack, steady as a metronome. "Help us!" Now it was using the voice of a young man. "We're lost, please!" I recognized that voice from the missing person report. Jake Morrison, 23, one of the lost hikers. The tunnel split into 3 directions. Old mining carts sat rusting on the tracks. I chose the middle path, trying to remember the layout from the old maps. My equipment was going haywire, compass spinning wildly, GPS showing impossible coordinates, even my digital watch displaying random symbols instead of numbers. I found their backpacks first, 3 of them torn open, contents scattered across the tunnel floor. Then I saw the blood, handprints on the wall, like someone had been dragged deeper into the mountain. The smell was overwhelming now. That goat. Musk mixed with something worse. Like roadkill that's been sitting in the sun for days. I heard it coming again, but this time it was whistling, a cheerful tune I recognized. "Happy birthday," in my mother's voice. My flashlight flickered and went out. Complete darkness. I fumbled for my backup light, hands shaking so bad I dropped it. The whistling got closer. When I finally got the backup light on, the creature was standing 10 feet away. Up close, I could see details that made my skin crawl. Its hands were almost human, but ended in black hooves instead of fingers. Its goat face had human eyes, brown, intelligent, studying me like I was a bug under a microscope. It tilted its head, horns scraping the tunnel wall. When it smiled, it had human teeth. "The old ones are waking up, Miguel," it said, this time in the voice of my dead grandfather. "The machines are calling us home." It reached for something on the ground, a railroad spike. The metal looked ancient, rusted, but in the creature's grip, it started to glow with a sick green light. That's when I noticed the symbols carved into the tunnel walls. The same ones I'd seen on the trees, but more of them. They seemed to pulse with that same green glow. The goatman, I didn't know what else to call it, began drawing more symbols in the air with the glowing spike. The temperature dropped so fast I could see ice forming on the walls. "The year turns," it said, switching to a voice I didn't recognize. Old, speaking accented English. "The machines fail. The door opens. We return." My radio crackled to life. Through the static, I heard screaming, human screaming, coming from deeper in the tunnel. The hikers were still alive. The goatman's red eyes flared brighter. It dropped back to all fours, muscles bunching under its fur. "Run, little ranger," it said in Maria's voice again. "Run and find them, if you can." Then it bounded away into the darkness, moving faster than any living thing should be able to move. The sound of its hooves faded, but the screaming continued. I had 2 choices: run back to the entrance and get help, or go deeper and try to save those hikers. I thought of their families waiting at home, of Christmas decorations still hanging in windows, of people checking off days until Y2K, worried about computer bugs when there were real monsters in the dark. I gripped my father's crucifix, said a prayer my abuela taught me, and headed toward the screams. The deeper I went into the tunnel, the more my equipment failed. My laptop crashed completely. The screen just showed a date jumping between December 31st, 1899 and January 1st, 1900. Even my flashlight kept dimming, like the batteries were being drained by something in the air. The screaming had stopped, which somehow felt worse than hearing it. The silence was so complete, I could hear my own heartbeat. I reached a large chamber where several tunnels met. In the center was something that shouldn't have been there. A massive black rock, maybe 10 feet across, sitting in a crater in the floor. The air around it seemed to shimmer like heat waves of hot asphalt. This had to be it, the meteorite that crashed here in 1833. The rock was covered in those same symbols, but these were older, carved so deep they looked like scars, and the rock was warm. Not just warm, it was pulsing with heat, like it had a heartbeat. Around the meteorite were things that made my stomach twist. Animal bones arranged in perfect circles, modern electronics, cell phones, cameras, GPS devices, all melted and fused together. and newspapers with headlines about Y2K, their edges burned. "Been waiting for you, Miguel." I spun around. The goat man stood at the entrance to the chamber, but it wasn't alone. It had the 3 hikers with it. They were alive, but changed. Their eyes were glassy, unfocused. They moved like puppets on strings. "You figured it out, didn't you?" the creature said, using my own voice now. "The meteorite, the radiation. It's been changing things here for over 150 years, creating things like me." It gestured with one hooved hand. "But we could only come out at certain times, when the conditions were right. Your people, with all your electronics, your computers, counting down to a new millennium, you created the perfect environment. Your machines are singing to us, calling us home." The hikers started chanting in a language I didn't recognize. The symbols on the walls began to glow brighter. "The Y2K bug isn't in your computers," the goatman continued. "It's in reality itself. When the calendar resets, so do the barriers between worlds." The creature picked up one of the hikers, a young woman named Sarah, like she weighed nothing. "We need vessels for when the door opens. These 3 will do nicely." I had to do something. I remembered my laptop in my backpack, maybe if it still had some battery life. "You could join us, Miguel," the goatman said, switching to my mother's voice. "Your grandmother knew about us. Why do you think she taught you those old prayers? Those fairy tales about forest spirits? She knew what was coming." I pulled out my laptop and opened it. The screen was still showing that jumping date, December 31st, 1899 to January 1st, 1900. But I had an idea. In my computer science classes, we learned about electromagnetic pulses, how they could fry electronics, how they could interfere with certain types of radiation. The meteorite was clearly electromagnetic. It was messing with all our equipment. But what if I could create feedback, make all these failing electronics create their own pulse? I started typing commands, hoping the laptop would respond. The goatman noticed what I was doing and dropped the hiker. "Clever boy," it snarled, not bothering with familiar voices anymore. Its true voice was like grinding stone. "But it won't work." I connected my laptop to my radio, my GPS, my digital camera, everything electronic I had. The devices were all malfunctioning anyway, jumping between dates and times. I wrote a quick program to make them all malfunction at once, on purpose. The goatman charged at me just as I hit enter. Every electronic device in that chamber started screaming. High-pitched feedback that made the symbols on the walls flicker and dim. The meteorite's pulsing became erratic. The goatman stumbled, clutching its horned head. The 3 hikers collapsed like their strings had been cut. "What did you do?" the creature roared. The feedback was creating an electromagnetic pulse, just like I'd hoped. The meteorite was reacting to it, its heat fluctuating wildly. I grabbed 2 of the hikers, Jake and Sarah. "Come on, we have to go!" The 3rd hiker, an older man named Frank, was closest to the meteorite. As I reached for him, the goatman recovered and lunged forward. One massive hand closed around Frank's ankle. "No!" I shouted, but it was too late. The creature dragged Frank toward the pulsing meteorite. The symbols on the walls flared so bright I had to shield my eyes. When I could see again, Frank was different. His body was twisting, changing. Fur sprouted from his skin. His face elongated. The goatman was trying to make him into another creature like itself. I had no choice. I grabbed Jake and Sarah and ran. Behind us, Frank's screams turned into something between human and animal. The tunnel was shaking now, rocks falling from the ceiling. My electromagnetic pulse had worked too well. It was destabilizing the whole tunnel system. We reached a junction. I remembered from the old maps. There was an old ventilation shaft here, used by the railroad workers. It was our only way out. "Climb!" I shouted to Jake and Sarah. They were coming out of their trance, confused and terrified. The shaft was narrow, barely wide enough for a person. We climbed desperately as the tunnel below us began to flood, water from underground streams pouring in through cracks in the walls. Below us, I heard the goatman roar. It couldn't fit in the shaft with those horns, but I could hear it smashing at the walls, trying to break through. We climbed for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. Finally, we emerged into the cold December rain. We were on the side of the mountain, about a quarter-mile from where I'd entered the tunnel. As we caught our breath, the ground shook. Below us, we could hear the tunnel system collapsing. The goatman's roars echoed up through the ventilation shaft, then went silent. Jake and Sarah couldn't remember anything after entering the first tunnel. Their last memory was setting up camp 2 days ago. When the rescue teams arrived, I told them we'd found the hikers trapped in a cave-in. I mentioned the unstable tunnels, but nothing about what I'd really seen down there. Who would believe me? They found Frank's body 3 days later when they excavated part of the collapsed tunnel. The official report said he'd been crushed by falling rocks. They didn't mention that his body had partially transformed, or that they found fur on his skin and the beginnings of horns on his skull. On January 1st, 2000, Y2K came and went. A few computers had problems, but the world didn't end like everyone. Weird. I resigned from the Forest Service that same week. Told everyone I was taking a job in Alaska, about as far from those tunnels as I could get. Before I left, I went to see my grandmother. Abuela, I asked her, those stories you told me about forest spirits, did you know about what's really out there? She looked at me for a long moment, then patted my hand. Some doors should stay closed, mijo, she said. But sometimes they open anyway. That's why we have the old prayers, for when the doors don't want to stay shut. I work in Denali National Park now. It's been 25 years since that night in the tunnel. I still carry my father's crucifix, still say my grandmother's prayers, and sometimes when my equipment acts up, when the GPS shows impossible coordinates or the radio picks up voices. That shouldn't be there. I wonder if the doors are opening again. They sealed those tunnels after the collapse, put up new barriers, stronger ones. But hikers still report strange sounds near Brown Mountain. Rangers find animal prints that change mid-stride into human footprints. And every few years, someone goes missing near the old railroad tracks. The Forest Service posts warnings about unstable mine shafts and dangerous wildlife. They don't mention the symbols that still appear on trees, or the smell of goat musk that sometimes drifts down from the sealed tunnel entrances, because some things are easier to explain as accidents than as impossible truths. And some doors, as my grandmother said, should stay closed, but they don't always listen. My name is Thomas Blackfeather, and I never believed in the old stories. Not until that summer in 1991, when the sky itself seemed angry with us. I was working as a ranger in Black Hills National Forest, South Dakota. It was July 3rd, and something felt wrong from the moment I woke up. The air was thick and heavy, like breathing through a wet blanket. Storm clouds were building over the hills, but they looked different, darker, almost alive. I got a call that morning from Joe Running Bear, a rancher I knew. "Tom, you better come see this," he said. "Something's been killing my cattle, but not like any animal I've seen." When I got to his ranch, I understood why he was spooked. 3 cows lay dead in his field. They weren't torn apart like a bear or mountain lion would do. They were empty, like something had sucked all the blood right out of them. And the claw marks, they were huge, way too big for any eagle. "Look at this." Joe pointed to the ground. There were feathers scattered around, not normal feathers. These were as long as my arm and had a strange bronze color that seemed to shimmer in the light. My hair stood up on my arms, and not just from the static electricity in the air. The weather felt wrong. I checked my radio. Severe storm warnings. But the weather patterns made no sense. It was like the rules of nature were breaking down. I decided to check Bear Butte, one of our sacred sites. As I drove there, I noticed dead birds on the road, lots of them, sparrows, crows, even a hawk, all just dropped from the sky. At Bear Butte, I found something that made my blood run cold. The ancient rock drawings, petroglyphs my grandfather had shown me as a kid. They were glowing, actually glowing in the dim stormlight. The images showed a giant bird with lightning coming from its wings. The wind picked up suddenly, and I heard it, a sound like thunder, but different. It had a pattern to it, almost like words. My grandfather's voice echoed in my memory. When Wakinyan flies, the thunder speaks. Wakinyan, the thunder bird. I'd heard the stories all my life, but never believed them. Just old tales to scare children, I thought. But standing there with the air crackling with electricity and those massive feathers in my pocket, I wasn't so sure anymore. My radio crackled. All rangers, be advised. Rapid City Weather Station reporting impossible readings. Barometric pressure dropping faster than instruments can measure. Something big is coming. I looked up at the sky. The clouds were moving in ways clouds shouldn't move, swirling, pulsing, like they were being stirred by invisible wings. In the distance, a flash of lightning lit up something huge, moving through the storm. Something with wings. That's when I knew the old stories were true. The Thunderbird wasn't just a legend. It was real, it was here, and it was angry. As I stood there, watching the impossible unfold, one thought kept running through my mind. What had we done to wake it up? The drive back to the ranger station felt like the longest of my life. My daughter, Sarah, was waiting for me there. She was 16 and spending the summer with me. She'd been asking questions about our Lakota heritage, questions I'd been avoiding for years. "Dad, what's wrong?" she asked when she saw my face. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "Maybe I have," I muttered, then caught myself. "Just strange. Weather, honey. Really strange weather." But Sarah was smart. She'd been having dreams lately. Dreams about flying, about seeing the Black Hills from above, dreams that felt too real. I couldn't focus on paperwork that afternoon. My mind kept going back to my grandfather, Joseph Blackfeather. He'd been a medicine man, respected by everyone on the reservation. He'd tried to teach me the old ways when I was young, but I'd pushed it all away. I wanted to fit in with the white kids at school. I wanted a normal life. After the army and college, I'd worked in Denver for an oil company. Good money, nice. House. But something was always missing. When my marriage fell apart, I came back to the Black Hills, became a ranger. But I still kept my distance from the reservation, from the ceremonies, from who I really was. That evening, the phone rang. It was Elder Joseph Sleeping Bear. "Thomas," he said, his voice calm but serious, "you need to come to the reservation tonight. Joseph, I'm on duty and the Wakinyan has awakened. You saw the signs today. You can't run from who you are anymore." I looked at Sarah, who was watching me with those intelligent eyes that reminded me so much of my grandfather. "Okay," I said, "we'll come." At the reservation, about 20 elders had gathered in the community center. Their faces were grave. Joseph stood when we entered. "The Thunderbird is angry," he said simply. "The mining company has been dynamiting near the sacred caves. They've disturbed something that should have stayed sleeping." He pulled out a map and pointed to several locations. "Here, here, and here. These are the ancient nesting sites. The government said these lands were protected, but money talks louder than treaties." Sarah stepped forward. "I've been dreaming about this," she said quietly. "A giant bird made of storm clouds, and underneath its wings, there are eggs. Stone eggs that have been sleeping for centuries." The elders exchanged looks. Joseph nodded, slowly. "The young ones often see more clearly than we do. Thomas, your daughter has the gift your grandfather had, the gift you've been running from." I felt something stir in my chest. Fear, maybe, or recognition. "What do you want me to do?" The Wakinian won't listen to us anymore. Too many broken promises. But you walk in both worlds. You understand the white man's science and our ancestors' wisdom. You might be the only one who can stop what's coming." "Stop what?" I asked, though part of me already knew. Joseph's eyes were dark and serious. "If the Thunderbird's nest is destroyed, it will bring storms that will wipe Rapid City off the map. And that's just the beginning." Outside, lightning flashed without thunder. The lights in the community center flickered. "The storm is building," Joseph said quietly. "And this time, it's not just weather, it's judgment." I felt Sarah's hand slip into mine. For the first time in years, I wished I'd listened to my grandfather's teachings, because now I had to face an angry God, and I barely remembered the prayers. The next morning, July 5th, I barely slept. Sarah and I were driving back to the station when the radio nearly made me crash the truck. Massive power outage in Rapid City. Witnesses report seeing a giant bird-like shape near the power lines before everything went dark. I pulled over, my hands shaking. Sarah grabbed my arm. "Dad, look!" Above us, the clouds were moving in impossible ways, against the wind in perfect circles. And there, just for a second, I saw it clearly. The Thunderbird. It was bigger than any living thing should be. Its wingspan stretched wider than a passenger plane. Its feathers weren't just feathers. They were made of storm clouds and lightning. Its eyes blazed pure white, like staring into the heart of a thunderstorm. The creature's cry split the air. Not a bird call, but the sound of thunder-given voice. Every car alarm in the parking lot went off. My radio died. Sarah's phone went blackier. Then in my mind, I heard words. Not English, Lakota. Words I hadn't heard since I was a child, sitting at my grandfather's feet. "You have forgotten. Your people have forgotten. The sacred places cry out." Sarah gripped my hand tighter. "Dad, it's in my head too. It's so sad and so angry." We watched as the Thunderbird flew toward the mining operation near Devil's Tower. Lightning followed its path, striking with surgical precision. Explosions rocked the mining site. Equipment burst into flames. My Ranger radio crackled back to life. It was Jim Morrison, my partner. Tom, you there? We've got fires starting all over, and something's attacking the mine. The workers are evacuating, but the transmission cut off in a burst of static. I knew I had to act. "Sarah, I need you to stay at the station. Call your mom. Tell her you love her." "Dad, no, I'm coming with you. This is dangerous. I know, but the Thunderbird, it showed me something. There's not just one, there's a pair, and they have eggs. Dad, they're just trying to protect their babies." I stared at my daughter, seeing my grandfather's wisdom in her young face. She was right. This wasn't just about ancient legends or supernatural forces. This was about parents protecting their young. We drove toward the mine. The closer we got, the worse the weather became. Hail the size of golf balls pounded the truck. The wind tried to push us off the road, but I kept driving. At the mine entrance, chaos reigned. Workers ran in every direction. Equipment lay in smoking ruins. And there, perched on the main building like it owned the place, was the Thunderbird. Up close, it was even more terrifying. Each feather crackled with electricity. Its talons had torn through steel like paper. But when it looked at me, I saw something beyond rage. I saw intelligence, ancient intelligence. "We're here!" I shouted over the wind. "We're here to help!" The bird tilted its massive head. Lightning danced around its crown of feathers. Then it spread its wings, and I saw them, 3 eggs, each, the size of a car, nestled in a crater, where the mining company had been drilling. Suddenly, the bird's mate appeared, diving from the clouds with a shriek that shattered windows. It was heading straight for the main explosive storage. "No," I yelled. "If you hit that, you'll destroy everything, the whole area." But how do you reason with a force of nature? How do you negotiate with a god? That's when Sarah stepped forward, raising her hands, and to my amazement she began to sing. It was a Lakota lullaby, one my grandfather used to sing to me, one I thought I'd forgotten. Both thunderbirds turned to look at her. The lightning calmed. The wind died down. For a moment there was perfect silence. Then I heard the voice in my mind again. The young one remembers, but remembering is not enough. What will you sacrifice to make things right? I knew then that this was bigger than a job, bigger than my fears, bigger than my denial of who I was. The thunderbirds weren't just protecting their nest. They were protecting the sacred balance that we had broken, and somehow I had to fix it. The storm grew worse as the day went on. By afternoon, a supercell was forming, the kind of storm that spawns tornadoes, and it was heading straight for Mount Rushmore, packed with 4th of July tourists. Sarah and I had driven to Crazy Horse Memorial to warn people there, but as we arrived, the winds picked up so fast we couldn't get back to our truck. We took shelter inside the visitor center with about 50 other people. "Dad," Sarah said, looking out the window, "this isn't natural weather anymore. The Thunderbird is doing this." She was right. I could feel it. The storm had a purpose, a direction. It was hunting. My radio crackled. "Tom!" It was Jim. "Where are you? The storm's getting worse. They're talking about evacuating Rapid City." "Jim, I'm at Crazy Horse with Sarah. Listen, this is going to sound crazy, but it's not just a storm," he finished. "I know. I saw it too. That bird. Tom, it's real. Everything your grandfather used to say, it's all real." Through the window, I watched the sky turn green, tornado weather. The Thunderbird's mate circled overhead, its wings creating the rotation in the clouds. "Jim, I need to do something. My grandfather taught me a ceremony, a dance, but I haven't done it since I was 12. I don't even know if I remember." "You have to try," Jim said. "The Weather Service is saying this could be the worst storm in South Dakota history." I looked at Sarah. Her eyes were wide with fear, but also trust. Trust in me. "Dad, I'll help you. We'll do it together." Outside, the wind was howling it over, 100 miles per hour. But I had to go out there. I had to try. "Jim, if something happens to me, tell my ex-wife that Sarah is the bravest person I know." "Tom, wait." But I was already heading for the door. Sarah grabbed my hand. "Together," she said firmly. We stepped outside into the storm. The wind nearly knocked us down. Rain and hail pelted our faces. Above us, the Thunderbird mate was creating a massive funnel cloud. I closed my eyes and tried to remember. The steps my grandfather had shown me. The words of the ghost dance, the rhythm of the drum that was now the rhythm of thunder. I began to move. Slow at first, then faster. Sarah moved with me, somehow knowing the steps I was taking. We danced in the storm, our feet finding the ancient pattern. The words came back to me, not in my mind, but in my heart. I sang in Lakota, the language I had tried so hard to forget. I sang about the sacred Black Hills, about the treaties broken, about the land crying out for justice. The Thunderbird descended, its massive form landing in front of us. Up close, I could see its eyes weren't just white. They held the history of 1,000 storms, the memory of when these hills were young. "Why?" I asked in Lakota. "Why now? Why this destruction?" The bird's voice filled my mind. "Your people have forgotten the balance. The sacred places are being destroyed. The nest of our children is threatened. We will not let our line end because of human greed, but innocent people will die. Innocent people die every day because of broken promises. The earth itself is dying. Sometimes a great storm is needed to clear the air." I thought about my own broken promises, to my grandfather, to my heritage, to myself. I thought about Sarah and the world she would inherit. "There has to be another way," I said. "Please, let me help." The Thunderbird studied me with those ancient eyes. Then it looked at Sarah, still dancing beside me in the storm. "You have raised a child who remembers what you forgot. Perhaps there is hope." The bird spread its wings. "But hope requires sacrifice. Are you prepared for what must be given?" I thought of all the tourists at Mount Rushmore, the families in Rapid City, my partner Jim still out there trying to help people. "Yes," I said, "whatever it takes." The Thunderbird's eyes flashed. "Then let us see if you remember how to save your people, all of them." The storm intensified. The real test was about to begin. The Thunderbird rose into the air and my radio came back to life. Jim's voice was panicked. "Tom, a tornado just touched down near Mount Rushmore. I'm trying to evacuate tourists, but..." Static cut him off then. "Tom, I'm going in. People are trapped." "Jim, no. Wait for emergency services." But I knew Jim. He wouldn't wait while people were in danger. That's the kind of man he was. The Thunderbird's voice boomed in my mind. "Your friend has courage, but courage alone is not enough. The storm demands a guardian." "What do you mean?" I asked, but deep down I already knew. Someone must stay. Someone must watch over the sacred places, ensure the promises are kept this time. Someone who understands both worlds. Sarah grabbed my arm. "Dad, no, there has to be another way." But the Thunderbird continued. "The mining must stop. The sacred sites must be protected. Someone must remain as witness, as guardian. This is the price of calming the storm." I thought about my life, the years I'd spent running from who I was, the heritage I'd denied, the spiritual emptiness that had driven me back to these hills. Maybe this was always where I was meant to be. "I'll do it," I said. "I'll stay. I'll be your guardian." "Dad!" Sarah cried. But then something unexpected happened. The radio crackled again. "Tom, I can see the nest from here. It's beautiful. The eggs, they're glowing." It was Jim. He'd made it to the mining site. "Jim, get out of there. The Thunderbirds..." "No, Tom. I understand now. I've been having dreams too. My grandmother was Crow. She told me stories. I thought they were just stories." The Thunderbird turned its massive head toward the mining site. Its mate was circling there, calling out in that thunder voice. "Jim, what are you doing?" His voice was calm now, peaceful even. "Someone has to stay, right, to watch over them. Tom, you have Sarah. She needs her father, and you need to teach her everything your grandfather taught you. Don't let it die with us." "Jim, no. It's okay, brother. I've been looking for purpose since I came back from Iraq. Maybe this is it. Maybe this is why I'm here." The Thunderbird launched itself into the air, flying toward its mate. The storm began to shift, pulling away from Mount Rushmore, away from Rapid City. Through the clearing clouds, I saw something I'll never forget. Jim stood at the center of the mining site, arms raised to the sky. The two Thunderbirds circled. Above him, their wings creating a vortex of light and storm. "Tell my sister I love her." Jim's voice came through one last time. "And Tom, teach Sarah the old ways. All of them." There was a blinding flash of lightning. When my vision cleared, the storm was breaking apart. The tornadoes dissipated. The supernatural fury that had threatened to destroy everything was calming. But Jim was gone. The Thunderbirds rose higher and higher until they disappeared into the remaining clouds. But as they vanished, something fell from the sky. A single egg, smaller than the others, landing gently near where Sarah and I stood. The Thunderbird's voice came one last time. "Raise it well. Teach it the balance we have lost. Let it be the bridge between worlds." Sarah and I approached the egg. It was warm, pulsing with an inner light, about the size of a basketball, covered in patterns that looked like storm clouds and lightning. "Dad," Sarah whispered, "are we really going to..." I nodded, finally understanding my grandfather's words from so long ago. Sometimes the old ways don't die. They just wait for someone ready to remember. The storm cleared completely. In the distance, sirens wailed as emergency services rushed to help. The mining site was destroyed, but the cities were safe. The sacred places were protected. They never found Jim's body. The official report listed him as missing during the storm. The mining company abandoned the Black Hills project, citing equipment failures and unsafe conditions. But Sarah and I know the truth. We know about the egg we're protecting, hidden in a cave known only to our family. We know that sometimes, on stormy nights, we can hear Jim's voice in the thunder, watching over the sacred places as he promised. And every day, I teach Sarah the old ways, the languages, the ceremonies, the stories. Because someday, when the egg hatches, someone will need to help a young thunderbird understand both worlds. The balance isn't fully restored yet, but for the first time in generations, there's hope. The thunderbird will fly again, and this time, we'll be ready to listen. As my grandfather used to say, the thunder speaks to those who remember how to hear. And now, finally, I remember. My name is Dorothy Martinez, but everyone calls me Dot. On that foggy morning of August 15th, 1963, I was doing what I did every day, protecting Mount Rainier National Park. As I stepped out of the ranger station, the dawn mist wrapped around the tall Douglas fir trees like a soft gray blanket. It was so thick I could barely see 20 feet ahead. Above me, Mount Rainier stood like a giant, its snowy peak turning pink as the first rays of sun hit it. The glaciers sparkled like diamonds, but something felt different that morning. The air smelled wrong, like smoke from faraway fires. This was the driest summer in Washington's history. We hadn't seen proper rain in weeks. The Paradise River, which usually roared with mountain water, was so low I could see rocks that had been hidden underwater since I was a kid. The exposed riverbed looked like missing teeth in an old man's smile. I adjusted my heavy canvas backpack, checking my gear one more time. Radio, check. Fire spotting equipment, check. My trusty Kodak camera, check. Maps, compass, first aid kit, everything in its place. You learn to be careful when you're alone in the wilderness. As I started down the trail, the birds were singing their morning songs. Robins, jays, and chickadees created a natural orchestra. But when I entered the part of the forest we called the cathedral, everything went quiet, dead quiet. The cathedral was special. Ancient cedar trees, some 800 years old, reached so high, their tops disappeared in the mist. Their trunks were so wide that 6 people holding hands couldn't wrap their arms around them. These giants had been here since before Columbus came to America. Under their thick branches, barely any sunlight reached the ground. It was like walking into a great, green church. That's when I smelled it. A strange odor hit my nose, like a wet dog that had gotten into a fight with a skunk. In all my years as a ranger, I'd never smelled anything like it. The scent was so strong, it made my eyes water. As I walked deeper into the cathedral, I noticed something odd. The trail markers. Small saplings we bent to show the path were all pointing the wrong way. They were bent at weird angles, leading off into the darker parts of the forest where we told hikers never to go. Then my radio crackled to life, making me jump. Base to Dot. "Come in, Dot." "This is Dot," I answered, trying to keep my voice steady. "We've got 2 hikers missing near Reflection Lakes, last seen yesterday afternoon. Can you check the cathedral area?" "Copy that. I'm in the cathedral now. Something's not right here. The trail markers have been moved." "Moved? By who?" I looked around at the ancient trees, the strange-smelling air, the bent saplings all pointing. Into the darkness. "I don't think it was a who," I said quietly. "I think it was a what." The radio went silent. Even through the static, I could feel the worry back at base. But I had a job to do. 2 people were missing, and I was going to find them. Taking a deep breath of that strange, musky air, I stepped off the marked trail and followed those bent saplings into the unknown. Let me tell you a bit about myself before I continue with what happened that day. I'm not your typical park ranger. At least that's what people kept telling me. At 5'2", I was the shortest ranger on staff and the first woman to wear the uniform at Mount Rainier. Some folks didn't like that. They'd make jokes, call me Little Lady instead of Ranger Martinez. But I had something to prove. I grew up in Yakima, where my parents picked apples and cherries in the orchards. My grandmother, though, she was special. She was Apache, and she taught me things about the forest that no ranger manual ever could. How to read tracks in the dust, how to listen to what the birds were really saying, how to smell danger before you could see it. The forest will speak to you, Misha, she'd say, but you have to be quiet enough to listen. She gave me this turquoise pendant when I turned 16, said it would protect me. I wore it under my uniform every single day. I joined the Park Service after Danny died in Korea. We were supposed to get married that spring of 1953. Instead, I got a telegram and a folded flag. The forest became my sanctuary after that. Out, here among the trees and mountains, I could breathe again, but I wasn't some delicate flower. Last spring, a black bear charged at me on the Wonderland Trail. I stood my ground, made myself big, and fought it off with my walking stick. The newspapers had a field day with that story, started calling me Little Bear. The other rangers finally stopped treating me like I might break. I even held the record for successful rescues in the park, 15 in 2 years. Including that time I carried a 200-pound logger with a broken leg 5 miles back to the trailhead. Don't ask me how I did it. Sometimes you just do what needs to be done. My morning ritual never changed. Wake up at 4:30, coffee, press my uniform until the creases could cut paper, polish my badge until it gleamed. Grandmother always said appearance was the first weapon against disrespect. You can't control what people think, she'd tell me, but you can control what they see. In my bag, I always carried my field journal. It was filled with sketches of plants, animals, weather patterns. And yeah, I talked to the animals when I thought no one was listening, usually in Spanish, like I did when I was little. Made me feel less alone out there. Buenos dias, Senor Ardilla, I'd say to the squirrels. Good morning, Mr. Squirrel. They'd chitter back like they understood. Maybe they did. On this particular morning, had I known I was about to face something that would challenge everything I thought I knew about these woods, I might have had an extra cup of coffee, or maybe called in sick. But Grandmother always said courage wasn't the absence of fear, it was walking forward despite it. So I kept walking into those woods toward whatever was waiting for me. I'd been walking for about 20 minutes when I found the first footprint. At first, I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. The print was huge, 18 inches long, with 5 distinct toes. No human had feet that big, not even the tallest basketball player. I knelt down to examine it, closer. The toes were spread wide, like whatever made it wasn't wearing shoes. The impression was deep, suggesting something very heavy. Using my pencil, I measured the distance to the next print, over 6 feet. Whatever made these tracks had to be at least 8 feet tall to take steps that big. What in the world? I whispered to myself. That's when I noticed the smell was stronger here. That wet dog and skunk odor made my nose wrinkle. Following the prints, I came across something that made my stomach turn. A pile of droppings. Now I'd studied every kind of animal scat in the Pacific Northwest. Bear, elk, mountain lion. I knew them all. But this was different. It had berries in it, which was normal, but there were also bits of deer fur and... Was that a piece of cloth? It looked like part of a hiker's bandana. My heart started beating faster. Whatever this creature was, it had been near the missing hikers. About 50 yards ahead, I heard a crack. Looking up, I saw fresh breaks in the tree branches, 12 feet off the ground. Hanging from the broken wood were strands of coarse, reddish-brown hair. I reached up to touch it. It was thick, like horsehair, but different somehow. More human-like. Following the trail, I found the missing hiker's campsite, or what was left of it. The tent was flattened, sleeping bags torn apart. Their food supplies were destroyed, cans crushed like beer cans, packages ripped open. But here's what was strange. Their expensive camera equipment lay untouched. Their watches, compass, even a wallet with $60, all left behind. Whatever did this wasn't interested in human valuables. It only wanted food. Suddenly the forest went completely silent. No birds, no squirrels, not even wind in the trees. Then I heard it. 3 knocks, like someone hitting a tree with a baseball bat. Then a pause, then 2 more knocks. Knock, 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 pause. Knock, knock. The sound came from my left. Then about 30 seconds later, the same pattern answered from my right, but further away. Like 2 people or 2 somethings, talking to each other in code. The hair on the back of my neck stood up. I wasn't alone out here. Moving forward, I noticed my compass needle spinning wildly. This sometimes happened near large mineral deposits, but we were nowhere near any known deposits. The trees here were different too, ancient hemlocks growing, in an almost perfect circle. In the center of this circle, I found something that made me stop breathing. Branches had been woven together to create shelters, but these weren't normal size. They were huge, at least 10 feet tall and 15 feet wide. It would take incredible strength to bend and weave branches that thick. As I examined these structures, that wood knocking started again. Closer this time, but now there were 3 different locations responding to each other. Knock, 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 pause, knock, knock. From the east, knock, 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 pause, knock, knock. From the south, knock, 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 pause, knock, knock. From the west, I was surrounded. Then I saw something that made my blood run cold. High up in a massive pine tree, at least 30 feet up, hung 2 backpacks. They were dangling from branches too thin to support a human climber. But on the ground below, someone had carefully arranged the contents of those packs. Clothes, folded neatly, food items sorted by type, personal items lined up like museum displays. Whatever had done this wasn't just strong, it was intelligent. My hand instinctively went to my radio. "Base, this is Dot. I found the hikers' camp. Something's not right here. I need..." The radio crackled with static, then went dead. I shook it, checked the battery. Nothing. That's when I smelled it again. Stronger than ever. That musky, wild odor that made my eyes water. And it was getting closer. Something massive was moving through the underbrush toward me. Something that walked on 2 legs. Something that was watching me, just as I had been. Watching its home. The first thing I saw was its shadow, massive and dark, moving between 2 ancient cedars. Then it stepped into a patch of filtered sunlight, and my whole world changed forever. It was at least 8 feet tall, covered head to toe in reddish-brown fur. But this wasn't like any bear or ape I'd ever seen. It stood perfectly upright, like a human. Its shoulders were broad as a doorway, arms hanging past its knees, but its face, oh God, its face was almost human. Deep-set eyes that held intelligence, a heavy brow, and a nose that was flat but definitely not animal-like. Our eyes met, and in that moment, I knew this creature was as aware of me as I was of it. Then it made a sound, a deep, rumbling vocalization that I felt in my chest more than heard with my ears. It wasn't aggressive exactly, more like questioning. I stood perfectly still, remembering my grandmother's words. When you meet something in the forest that scares you, show respect. Don't run, don't threaten, just be still and listen. The Sasquatch, because what else could it be, tilted its head, studying me. Then it did something that made my jaw drop. It picked up a small stone and threw it, not at me, but to my left, where it landed with a soft thud. Then another stone to my right, then another, behind me. It was herding me, like a sheepdog with a lost lamb. I took a step backward, away from where it seemed to want me to go. The creature's eyes narrowed. It made that rumbling sound again, but louder, more insistent. That's when I remembered my camera. Moving very slowly, I reached for it. The Sasquatch watched my every move. As soon as I raised the camera to my eye, it turned its massive head away and stepped behind a tree. It knew what a camera was. It knew I was trying to photograph it, and it didn't want its picture taken. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. This wasn't just some wild animal. This was something that understood, that thought, that made decisions. The creature peered around the tree, checking if I still had the camera raised. When it saw I'd lowered it, it stepped back out. Then it did something that absolutely stunned me. It perfectly imitated a crow's call. Caw! Caw! Then it made a sound I can only describe as laughter. Deep, rumbly, but definitely laughter. It was mimicking the birds to show me it could. I realized then that this Sasquatch had been watching us, the rangers, the hikers, learning our patterns, our behaviors. It knew our trails, our schedules. It had probably been avoiding us for years, and we never even knew it was there. The wood knock started again, that same pattern. Knock, 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 pause, knock, knock. But now I could see the creature wasn't making the sound. There were others out there. A whole family, maybe. The Sasquatch in front of me began to move, walking parallel to me but keeping its distance. Every time I tried to go in a certain direction, it would throw another stone or make a warning sound. It was definitely herding me away from something. Then through the trees, I saw them, 3 more Sasquatch. 2 were smaller, maybe 6 feet tall, juveniles, and they were standing protectively around something on the ground. The adult made a soft grunting sound, and amazingly, the juveniles responded. They moved aside just enough for me to see what they were protecting. It was a crude bed of ferns and moss, and lying on it was an elderly Sasquatch. Its fur was more gray than brown, its breathing labored. It was sick or injured, or maybe just very old. That's when I understood. They weren't being aggressive. They were protecting their vulnerable family member. The adult had been trying to keep me away from their sick elder. I slowly sat down on a fallen log, keeping my movements careful and non-threatening. The adult Sasquatch watched me intently, those intelligent eyes seeming to gauge my intentions. "I won't hurt you," I said softly, even though I knew it couldn't understand my words. "I promise." But maybe it understood something in my tone, because its massive shoulders seemed to relax just a little. We sat there, human and Sasquatch, in a moment of strange understanding. Then the creature did something that still gives me chills when I think about it. It pointed at my ranger badge, then at itself. Then it made a sweeping gesture that seemed to encompass the whole forest. Was it trying to tell me that it too was some kind of protector of this place? I'll never know for sure, because that's when everything went wrong. I should have been more careful about where I was walking. In my amazement at seeing these creatures, I'd followed them deeper into the forest than I realized. When I stood up from that fallen log, my foot caught on something hidden under the ferns. I stumbled forward, grabbing at branches to keep from falling. That's when I saw them, human skulls, ancient ones weathered by time, arranged in a careful circle around a massive cedar tree. Some had flowers placed on them, others had pretty stones or feathers. This wasn't just any place in the forest, this was a Sasquatch graveyard. The adult Sasquatch let out a roar that shook the trees. Its eyes, which had been almost gentle moments before, now blazed with fury. It stood to its full height, and I realized it was even taller than I'd thought, 9 feet at least. Its lips pulled back, revealing teeth that could crush bones. I'd violated their sacred ground. "I'm sorry," I called out, backing away quickly. "I didn't mean to. I didn't know." But the creature was beyond hearing. It charged toward me with frightening speed for something so large. I scrambled backward, tripping over roots and rocks. There was a rocky outcrop nearby. If I could just reach it, climb it. The Sasquatch's roar brought the others running. Now I had 4 angry creatures, each one stronger than any human, protecting their sacred burial ground from an intruder. I ran like I'd never run before, my shorter legs pumping as fast as they could. Behind me I could hear the crash of breaking branches as the Sasquatch pursued. They weren't just chasing me randomly, they were working together, trying to cut off my escape routes. I reached the rocky outcrop and started climbing. My hands found holes in the rough granite as I pulled myself up. The rocks were steep, but I was desperate. Below me, the adult Sasquatch reached the base of the rocks and began to climb after me. For something so large, it moved with surprising agility. But the rocks were loose in places, and its weight worked against it. Stones tumbled down as it tried to find purchase. I reached a ledge about 15 feet up and pressed myself against the rock face. My radio suddenly crackled to life. Apparently the rocky outcrop was high enough to get a signal. Base! Base! This is DOT! Emergency at coordinates! I rattled off my location as the Sasquatch below me grew more frustrated. I need immediate backup, and tell them to bring tranquilizer guns, not regular weapons. These creatures are intelligent. What? Are creatures, Dot? Are you okay? Before I could answer, the radio was ripped from my hand. The adult Sasquatch had climbed high enough to reach the ledge. With one powerful hand, it grabbed my radio and crushed it like a soda can. I was pressed against the rock with nowhere to go. The creature's face was inches from mine. I could smell its breath, surprisingly not unpleasant, like pine needles and wild berries. Those intelligent eyes stared into mine, and I knew this was it. After surviving bears and mountain lions, I was going to die at the hands of a creature most people didn't even believe existed. Then I smelled something else. Smoke. The Sasquatch smelled it too. Its nostrils flared and it turned its massive head toward the west. Through the trees, I could see the orange glow. Forest fire. And it was coming fast. The creature looked back at me, then at the fire, then down at its family. The juveniles were crying out in fear. The elderly Sasquatch was trying to get up but could barely move. For a moment our eyes met again. Enemy or not, we both had the same problem now. That fire would kill us all if we didn't move. The adult Sasquatch made a decision. It let go of the ledge and dropped to the ground with surprising grace. But instead of running to safety, it rushed toward the elderly Sasquatch, making urgent grunting sounds. The juveniles were panicking. The approaching fire had created a wind that was spreading the flames faster than any of us expected. Burning. Embers were already falling around us like deadly snow. Then I watched as the adult Sasquatch did something that proved these creatures were more human than animal. It was trying to carry the elderly one, but the old Sasquatch was too weak, too heavy. The adult looked around frantically, then spotted a large branch. Was it going to make a stretcher? I couldn't believe what I was seeing. That's when I made my choice. I climbed down from the ledge. "Hey!" I shouted, waving my arms. "Let me help!" The adult Sasquatch spun around, baring its teeth. But I pointed to the branch, then to the elderly Sasquatch, then made carrying motions with my arms. "Together," I said, "we can carry your elder together." For a long moment, the creature studied me. Smoke was getting thicker. We could hear trees exploding in the distance as the fire consumed them. Then slowly, the Sasquatch nodded. What happened next is something I'll never forget. Human and Sasquatch working side by side to save a life. We managed to create a crude stretcher from branches and vines. The elderly Sasquatch was incredibly heavy, but between us, we could move it. The juveniles stayed close as we hurried through the forest. The adult would grunt directions, and somehow I understood. Left here, right there, watch that route, careful of the stream. We were almost to safety when it happened. A massive burning pine tree, weakened by the flames, started to fall. It was heading straight for one of the juveniles who had frozen in terror. The adult Sasquatch didn't hesitate. It dropped its end of the stretcher and lunged forward, shoving the juvenile out of the way. The tree crashed down with a thunderous boom. missing the young one by inches, but in saving its child, the adult had put itself in danger. Burning branches rained down. The Sasquatch roared in pain as embers singed its fur. Now it was my turn to help. I grabbed a branch and started beating at the flames on the creature's back. The Sasquatch turned to look at me, surprise evident, even on its inhuman face. "We're not done yet," I said firmly. Together we got the family to a rocky area where the fire couldn't reach. The adult was burned but would survive. The elderly Sasquatch was breathing easier. The juveniles huddled close to their protector. As I turned to leave, I still had a job to do after all. The adult Sasquatch grunted at me. When I looked back, it held out its massive hand. In its palm was my camera, crushed beyond repair. But it wasn't giving it back to apologize for breaking it. The creature pointed at the camera, then at itself, then shook its head. The message was clear: no pictures, no proof. I nodded. I understand, and I did. Some things weren't meant to be proven. Some mysteries needed to stay mysterious. 3 weeks later, the missing hikers were found wandering on a logging road. They had no memory of what had happened to them. Their last clear memory was setting up camp. Everything else was a blur. I wrote my report, of course. But when I submitted it to my supervisors, it came back with a new classification stamp: confidential, eyes only. Someone, somewhere, didn't want the truth getting out. I never saw the Sasquatch family again, though I looked for them every time I patrolled that area. Sometimes I'd find a footprint or catch a whiff of that distinctive smell. Once I found a small pile of perfect blackberries left on a tree stump right in the middle of my usual trail. They were still out there watching, protecting their forest in their own way, just as I protected it in mine. My grandmother was right. The forest will speak to you, but you have to be quiet enough to listen. And sometimes what it tells you is meant to be kept secret, because some things are more important than proof. Some things are about respect and the mutual understanding between two beings, human and Sasquatch, who both love the same wild places. That's the real story of what happened on Mount Rainier in August of 1963, believe it or don't. But I know what I saw, I know what I experienced, and I know that somewhere in those ancient forests, a family of incredible beings continues to live, hidden from our modern world. Sometimes late at night, when I'm alone with my thoughts, I wonder if they remember the little ranger who helped them escape the fire. I like to think they do. After all, we're all protectors of the forest in our own way.